Have you ever noticed how certain symbols seem to follow you, not just in one place, but everywhere, carved into the walls of ancient temples, hidden in the pages of sacred texts, even scratched onto artifacts buried deep beneath the earth, separated by oceans and centuries? These aren't random marks, they're deliberate, repeating patterns, 42 of them, to be exact, appearing again and again across cultures that supposedly never met. What if these symbols aren't just coincidence, but a message, a shared language left behind by civilizations long gone, waiting for us to piece it together? Today, we're stepping into a mystery that spans the globe, tracing these enigmatic signs from the deserts of Egypt to the jungles of Mesoamerica, from the caves of prehistoric Europe to the temples of ancient India. Think about it. How could the same intricate symbols appear in places separated by thousands of miles, crafted by people who, according to history, never crossed paths? It's as if someone or something planted a code across time and space, a puzzle meant to outlast empires. Some researchers believe these symbols hold the key to lost knowledge, secrets of advanced technology, or even warnings from the past. Others argue they're proof of a forgotten global civilization, a network of cultures connected in ways we're only beginning to understand. And then there are those who see something even more profound, a universal language, one that transcends words and speaks directly to the human subconscious. This isn't just about decoding shapes on a stone, it's about rewriting history. Every symbol we uncover challenges what we thought we knew about ancient trade routes, about human migration, about the very origins of our collective story. Were these symbols sacred, practical, a mix of both? As we dive into the theories, the patterns, and the startling discoveries, you'll start to see connections you never noticed before. By the end, you might just look at the world and its hidden messages in a whole new way. So let's begin. The truth is closer than you think. Take a closer look at one of these symbols, perhaps the spiral, carved into the stones of Newgrange in Ireland, painted on the walls of a Peruvian temple, or etched into a Mesopotamian clay tablet. It's the same shape, repeating across continents, yet separated by thousands of years. How is that possible? The 42 symbols aren't just random doodles. They're precise, intentional, and eerily consistent. Some look like celestial map circles with radiating lines, as if charting the sun or distant stars. Others take the form of animals, serpents, birds, or creatures that don't match any known species. Then there are the abstract ones, zigzags, interlocking triangles, patterns so intricate they seem to vibrate off the stone. Archaeologists first noticed these symbols popping up in unexpected places. A symbol found in an Egyptian sarcophagus would reappear in a Mayan codex. A pattern scratched onto a cave wall in France mirrored a design on a Bronze Age artifact from China. At first, scholars dismissed it as coincidence. After all, humans have only so many basic shapes to work with. But the more they looked, the harder it became to ignore. The symbols weren't just similar, they were identical down to the smallest detail, and they kept appearing in sacred spaces, tombs, temples, ritual objects, as if they held power beyond mere decoration. So what do they mean? One theory suggests they're a lost writing system, a precursor to alphabets we know today. Imagine a world where symbols, not words, carried complex ideas across cultures. Another idea ties them to astronomy, a way for ancient people to record celestial events like comets or eclipses that held deep spiritual significance. Then there's the boldest theory that these symbols are remnants of a shared global culture, a civilization so old its name has been erased from history. Could they be fragments of a forgotten language, one that spoke in shapes instead of sounds? The real shock comes when you realize how precise these symbols are. The double helix, for example, appears in carvings from ancient India and Central America. Long before modern science revealed the structure of DNA, the lotus flower, symbolizing rebirth, shows up in both Egyptian and Buddhist art despite oceans between them. And the labyrinth, a maze-like design, is found in Crete, Scandinavia, and Native American petroglyphs. These aren't vague similarities, they're exact, deliberate echoes. What's even stranger is that many of these symbols seem to tap into something deeper in the human mind. Studies show that certain shapes like spirals or concentric circles trigger universal responses in our brains, evoking awe or tranquility. Did ancient cultures discover this first? Were they using these symbols not just to communicate, but to awaken something inside us? The more we uncover, the clearer it becomes. These 42 symbols aren't just art. They're a puzzle, a bridge across time, and solving them might change how we see our past. The spiral winds through history like a silent whisper, appearing in the most unexpected places yet carrying the same profound meaning. In the ancient tombs of Ireland, it curls across massive stone slabs at Newgrange, a sacred site older than the pyramids. Halfway across the world, the same coiled shape emerges in the rock carvings of the American Southwest, etched by ancestral Puebloans centuries ago. And in India, it unfolds in intricate mandalas, guiding meditation with its hypnotic turn. This isn't just decoration, it's a mirror of nature itself. Seashells unfurl in perfect spirals. Galaxies spin in vast, cosmic versions of the same pattern. Even the arrangement of seeds in a sunflower follows the spiral's mathematical precision, echoing the Fibonacci sequence long before humans named it. What did ancient cultures see in this shape that compelled them to repeat it across millennia? Some believed it symbolized the journey of the soul, birth, growth, death, and rebirth, forever turning like the seasons. Others saw it as a map of cosmic energy, a visual prayer connecting Earth to the heavens. The Hopi people viewed it as a sign of migration and emergence, while Celtic Druids linked it to the eternal cycle of time. The sheer universality of the spiral suggests something deeper, a shared human instinct to find order in chaos, to grasp the invisible rhythms of existence. But here's the startling part: the spiral isn't just a philosophical idea. It's practical. Ancient builders may have used its proportions in sacred architecture, creating spaces that resonated with natural harmony. Some researchers argue that spiral petroglyphs served as astronomical markers, tracking solstices or planetary movements. And then there's the eerie possibility that these cultures, separated by continents, were tapping into the same intuitive understanding of sacred geometry, a silent language written in stone and starlight. Now consider this: if the spiral is humanity's first attempt to map the mysteries of existence, what does that say about us? Across deserts and jungles, through unspoken words, we've been reaching for the same truths. The next symbol takes us even further, into the heart of an enigma that blurs the line between earth and sky. Now picture an emblem so powerful it soared across empires, a twin-headed eagle, its gaze fixed in opposite directions, wings spread as if claiming both east and west. This is no ordinary bird, carved into Hittite temple walls 3,000 years ago, stitched onto the battle standards of Byzantine emperors, even hidden in the rituals of medieval Freemasons. The double-headed eagle defies time and geography. How did the same majestic symbol come to represent authority in cultures separated by centuries and continents? At its core, the double-headed eagle embodies duality, the balance between earthly power and divine right, between war and wisdom. The Hittites, ancient rulers of Anatolia, likely saw it as a guardian of their empire, watching over two realms at once. For the Byzantines, it became a political statement, one head for Constantinople, the other for Rome, a claim of universal dominion. And in alchemy, it transformed into the union of opposites, sun and moon, male and female, the philosopher's stone itself. But here's where it gets intriguing. Some researchers point to shamanic traditions, where the eagle symbolizes the soul's journey between worlds. Could ancient leaders have used this symbol to signal their ability to traverse the physical and spiritual planes? There's another, more controversial theory, that the double-headed eagle was a secret insignia passed among elite bloodlines, a visual code marking those in the know. Look closely at medieval European crests or Ottoman sultan seals, and you'll find the same motif, suggesting a thread of hidden knowledge weaving through history. The most striking detail, the precision of its design. Whether etched in Hattus's stone or embroidered on a Masonic apron, the eagle's symmetry is flawless, a deliberate choice. This isn't just art, it's a statement. When the Holy Roman Empire adopted it, they weren't just borrowing a pretty image. They were tapping into an ancient language of power, one that whispered of unity, control, and cosmic balance. So why does this matter today? Because symbols like these are more than relics. They're keys to understanding how civilizations, despite oceans and eras, might have shared ideas long before history books say they could. The double-headed eagle doesn't just watch over the past. It challenges us to rethink the connections we've overlooked. And as we turn to the next symbol, the Labyrinth, we'll find another pattern that binds humanity together in ways we're only beginning to decipher. Now imagine a serpent coiled in a perfect circle, its jaws clamped around its own tail, an image so striking it echoes across time and space. This is the Ouroboros, one of the most enduring symbols in human history, appearing in the scrolls of ancient Egypt, the lore of Viking sagas, and the sacred texts of the Aztecs. At first glance, it's a simple loop, but dig deeper, and you'll uncover a philosophy so profound it transcends cultures. The serpent devouring itself isn't just a metaphor for infinity. It's a key to understanding how civilizations grappled with the mysteries of existence. Take the alchemists of medieval Europe, who saw the Ouroboros as the ultimate symbol of transformation. To them, it represented the philosopher's stone, the mythical substance that could turn base metals into gold, but also purify the human soul. The snake's endless cycle of consumption and renewal mirrored their quest for eternal wisdom, a process of death and rebirth that echoed in their laboratories and prayers. Halfway across the world, the Aztecs revered Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, whose circular form symbolized the unbroken cycle of creation and destruction. Even in Norse myths, the great serpent Jörmungandr encircled the world, biting its tail to maintain the balance of the cosmos. Why does this same image emerge in cultures that never met? Some argue it's a universal insight, a recognition of nature's rhythms, from the changing seasons to the life and death of stars. Others go further, suggesting it's evidence of a shared ancestral memory, a fragment of knowledge passed down from a civilization lost to time. The Ouroboros doesn't just represent cycles, it hints at unity. In Hindu tradition, the serpent Ananta floats on the cosmic ocean, supporting the universe while embodying eternity. In Gnostic texts, it's a symbol of self-knowledge, the journey inward to confront one's own beginnings and endings. But here's the twist: modern science has stumbled upon a startling parallel. The structure of DNA, the very blueprint of life, forms a double helix, a coiled shape eerily reminiscent of the Ouroboros. Could ancient cultures have intuited something about the fundamental patterns of existence, encoding it in this timeless symbol? Whether by chance or design, the serpent's loop continues to fascinate, challenging us to reconsider how deeply connected our ancestors might have been, not by trade routes or treaties, but by a shared vision of the infinite. As we unravel the next symbol, the labyrinth, we'll find another thread in this global tapestry, one that leads us through winding paths of mystery and meaning. Of all the symbols we've explored, none carries a heavier burden than the swastika, a shape so ancient, so sacred, that its true meaning has been all but erased by the crimes of the 20th century. But long before it was twisted into a symbol of hatred, this cross with hooked arms was a universal emblem of life, luck, and cosmic motion. Found in the ruins of Troy, painted on Navajo blankets, carved into the temples of Ankh, the swastika's geometric precision appears in cultures separated by thousands of miles and years. How could something so widespread, so deeply revered, become one of history's most reviled images? The word swastika itself comes from Sanskrit, meaning conducive to well-being. In Hinduism, it's drawn in vermilion on doorways during festivals, a blessing for prosperity. Buddhist monks trace it onto statues of the Buddha, where it symbolizes the eternal wheel of Dharma. The Hopi people saw it as the wandering clan's migration symbol, while ancient Celts associated it with the sun's journey across the sky. Even early Christians used it in catacombs, calling it the Gamadian cross. The sheer breadth of its positive meaning is staggering until you realize why it was chosen. Archaeologists point to its mathematical elegance. The swastika's arms mirror the movement of the Big Dipper around Polaris, the North Star, a celestial clock our ancestors tracked for agriculture and navigation. Some researchers believe it was a primitive compass, its arms pointing to the 4 directions. Others argue it's a fractal, echoing patterns found in nature, from spinning galaxies to the way vines curl toward sunlight. Its symmetry made it easy to replicate, but its depth made it sacred. Then came the theft. In the early 1900s, far-right groups in Europe began appropriating ancient symbols to fabricate a mythic Aryan past. The swastika, already linked to Indo-European migrations, was plucked from its context and weaponized. By the time the Nazis emblazoned it on flags, the world had forgotten its origins. The irony, the symbol they used to proclaim racial purity was shared by nearly every culture on Earth, proof of our interconnectedness, not our division. Today, efforts are underway to reclaim the swastika's original meaning. In India, it still adorns wedding invitations and shopfronts. In Japan, it marks Buddhist temples on maps. Scholars stress the importance of separating the symbol from its hijacked history, reminding us that symbols themselves hold no power, only the meanings we assign them. The swastika's journey from sacred to profane and back again is a lesson in how easily history can be rewritten and how vital it is to dig deeper. Because beneath layers of pain, this ancient shape still whispers of unity, of the sun's endless turn, of a time when humanity spoke a common visual language. As we turn to the next symbol, the Tree of Life, we'll find another thread connecting civilizations, one that roots us all in the same earth. The Tree of Life stretches its branches across millennia, its roots digging deep into the soil of nearly every ancient civilization. In the mystical traditions of the Kabbalah, it's a map of divine energy, 10 spheres connected by winding paths representing the soul's ascent to enlightenment. Carved into Assyrian palace walls over 2,500 years ago, the same tree stands flanked by winged deities, its fruit granting immortality. Halfway across the world, the Maya depicted it as the sacred ceiba, whose roots reached the underworld while its branches cradled the heavens. What is it about this symbol that compelled cultures separated by oceans to echo the same profound idea? That existence itself is a vast, interconnected web. Look closely and you'll see uncanny parallels between the tree of life and the natural world. Its branching form mirrors the human nervous system, lightning splitting the sky, even the fractal patterns of river deltas. Modern scientists marvel at how closely its structure resembles mycelium networks, the underground fungal threads that connect entire forests, allowing trees to communicate. Did ancient seers intuit these connections long before microscopes revealed them? Some researchers argue the tree of life wasn't just a spiritual metaphor but a coded understanding of ecology, a reminder that all things gods, humans, plants draw from the same unseen source. The symbol's variations reveal even deeper layers. In Norse mythology, Yggdrasil, the world tree, binds the 9 realms together, its roots gnawed by serpents while an eagle nests in its crown. The Bhagavad Gita describes an upside-down tree, its roots in the heavens, symbolizing how divine energy flows into the material world. These aren't arbitrary differences. They're cultural lenses focusing on the same truth, that life is a cycle of nourishment and decay, of invisible threads tying the cosmos together. Perhaps most striking is how the tree of life bridges science and spirituality. DNA's double helix echoes the twisting vines of sacred trees in ancient art. The branching patterns of evolutionary biology mirror the Kabbalah's Sephirot, each branch a stage of spiritual or biological development. Could this symbol be humanity's earliest attempt to visualize the unity of all things? From the cedars of Lebanon revered by Phoenicians to the Bodhi tree under which the Buddha awakened, the message is the same: growth requires both roots and reach, a balance between earthly grounding and celestial aspiration. Now consider this: if the tree of life is a universal symbol of connection, what does its persistence tell us about human longing? Across deserts and tundras, in temples and texts, we've returned again and again to this image, as if remembering something we can't quite name. The next symbol, the Labyrinth, will take us even deeper into the maze of shared human imagination. 2 perfect circles overlapping just enough to create a slender almond shape between them. This is the Vesica Piscis, a geometric figure so fundamental it's been called the womb of the universe. You'll find it hidden in the stained glass windows of Gothic cathedrals, etched into the floor of the Hagia Sophia, even sketched in the margins of Leonardo da Vinci's notebooks. But its significance goes far beyond art or architecture. This simple intersection of circles appears in the earliest known sacred art, from Celtic stone carvings to Sumerian cylinder seals, as if ancient cultures were all pointing to the same invisible blueprint. What makes this shape so powerful? Mathematically, the Vesica Piscis is where unity becomes duality, 2 becoming one while still remaining distinct. The space where the circles overlap, called the Mandala, or divine vulva, was revered as a portal between worlds. In Christian art, Christ is often depicted within it, symbolizing his bridging of heaven and earth. Pagan traditions saw it as the meeting place of God and Goddess, the origin of all creation. Even the proportions of the Vesica Piscis hold secrets. Its height-to-width ratio is the square root of 3, a number that appears in the structure of molecules, the geometry of crystals, and the harmonics of sound waves. Builders of sacred spaces were obsessed with this shape. Chartres Cathedral's Labyrinth is based on its dimensions. The Great Pyramid's King's Chamber aligns with its proportions. Some researchers argue that ancient architects used the Vesica Piscis as a kind of spiritual technology, designing temples where its geometry would amplify energy or align with ley lines. There's a reason medieval masons guarded its secrets. It wasn't just about beauty, it was about resonance. Then there's the boldest theory, that the Vesica Piscis encodes access to higher dimensions. Modern physics suggests our universe may be a membrane floating in an 11-dimensional space. Could ancient mystics have glimpsed this through meditation on sacred geometry? The shape's reappearance in crop circles and quantum physics diagrams adds another eerie layer. Whether by intuition or insight, cultures across time seem to have understood that this intersection of circles was more than a symbol. It was a map, a key, a doorway. One thing is certain, the Vesica Piscis isn't just a relic of the past. Its influence stretches into modern design, from corporate logos to the interfaces of our smartphones. Perhaps we're still drawn to its perfect balance, even if we've forgotten why. As we turn to the next symbol, the Labyrinth, we'll find another ancient pattern that refuses to let go of the human imagination, a path that winds through history as mysteriously as it twists beneath our feet. The Ankh dangles from the hands of Egyptian gods in temple carvings, clutched by pharaohs in tomb paintings, its looped top resting against their lips as if whispering secrets of the afterlife. This simple shape, a cross crowned with a teardrop, wasn't just decoration. It was the ancient Egyptian key to immortality, a symbol so potent it bridged the gap between mortal and divine. But here's what most histories overlook. The Ankh wasn't confined to the Nile. Variations of this symbol emerge in the carvings of the Olmecs, woven into the textiles of West Africa, even etched onto megaliths in ancient Iberia. How did the same icon of eternal life surface in cultures separated by oceans and epochs? Look closer, and the Ankh reveals layers of meaning. In Egypt, it was often depicted emitting rays of light, pressed into the nostrils of the dead to restore breath, an ancient metaphor for resurrection. The loop symbolized the eternal soul, while the crossbar represented the material world, the intersection point where divinity meets humanity. But in Mesoamerica, a nearly identical symbol appeared in the hands of rain gods, associated with fertility and the life-giving power of water. The Dogon people of Mali carried staffs topped with an Ankh-like shape, calling it the seed of the universe, a nod to cosmic creation. These parallels suggest something startling. The Ankh might encode a universal understanding of life force, a concept so fundamental it transcended cultural boundaries. Then there are the fringe theories, ones that push the symbol into stranger territory. Some researchers point to the Ankh's resemblance to ancient tools, speculating it was a literal key, a device for unlocking energy or even manipulating atmospheric electricity. The loop, they argue, could represent a toroidal field, the same energy pattern found in magnetic fields around planets. Others see it as a geometric cipher, its proportions aligning with sacred sites along the Nile, perhaps marking portals or power nodes. Even mainstream Egyptologists acknowledge the Ankh's link to the Ankh FN Konsu, a ritual implement described in funerary texts as opening the gates of heaven. But perhaps the most compelling clue lies in the Ankh's everyday use. Egyptians wore it as amulets, painted it on childbirth bricks, even shaped mirrors into its form, not just for the elite but for ordinary people seeking protection. This wasn't just a symbol of death, it was a celebration of life's continuity from this world to the next. Modern scientists might call it a meme, an idea so resonant it self-replicates across generations. The Ankh's endurance challenges us to ask, did these cultures stumble upon the same symbol by chance, or was there a deeper, shared understanding of existence we've yet to rediscover? Now consider this: what if the Ankh's power lies not in its shape, but in what it represents, the unbroken cycle of energy, the thread connecting all living things? As we turn to the next symbol, the Labyrinth, we'll find another ancient pattern that twists through history, revealing how humanity has always sought to map the unseen. 3 curved arms, each a spiral in motion, radiating from a central point as if caught mid-rotation. This is the Triskelion, one of humanity's most hypnotic symbols. Found etched into the stones of Neolithic tombs in Ireland, stamped onto ancient Greek coins, even woven into the family crests of samurai clans, this triple spiral doesn't just sit on artifacts, it seems to pulse with energy. What's fascinating isn't just its widespread use, but how cultures with no known contact arrived at the same conclusion, that three moving parts could encapsulate the rhythm of existence itself. The Celts saw it as a representation of life's eternal forward motion, birth, death, and rebirth intertwined. In Greek Sicily, it adorned shields, perhaps as a talisman for warriors who understood battle as a cycle of attack, defense, and renewal. Meanwhile, in Japan, the Mitsudomo version mirrored Shinto beliefs in the interplay of earth, water, and sky. But here's where it gets intriguing. The Triskelions' arms often curve at precise angles matching the golden ratio, a mathematical proportion found in hurricanes, galaxies, and even the cochlea of the human ear. Did ancient artisans simply stumble upon this pleasing shape, or were they encoding observations about nature's fundamental patterns? Some researchers propose the Triskelion was more than symbolic, it might have been functional. Its spiraling arms resemble vortexes, suggesting cultures who lived by the sea understood fluid dynamics long before modern science named them. Bronze Age navigators could have used it as a rudimentary compass, aligning the arms with tidal currents or star paths. Others argue it served as a meditation tool, its turning motion guiding the mind into trance states. There's even a compelling theory linking it to early observations of solar events, the three arms echoing the sun's triennial positions at solstices and equinoxes. Yet the Triskelion's true power might lie in its ambiguity. Unlike rigid symbols with fixed meanings, it invites interpretation. Is it a wheel, a dance? A cosmic fingerprint, this fluidity makes it timeless. Modern physicists nod to its resemblance to quark structures, while psychologists note how its balanced motion induces calm, proof that some symbols speak directly to our neural wiring. The deeper we look, the clearer it becomes. The Triskelion isn't just a relic. It's a mirror reflecting humanity's endless quest to find order in chaos, to capture the unseeable forces that turn the world. High above a pyramid on the back of a dollar bill, an eye gazes outward, unblinking, omniscient, ringed by golden rays. This is the Eye of Providence, perhaps the most controversial of our 42 symbols, equally revered and feared across centuries. But its story begins long before it was stamped onto currency or carved into Masonic lodges. In ancient Egypt, the Eye of Horus watched over pharaohs as a symbol of protection and royal power, its fractured pieces representing fractions used in medicine and trade. Yet halfway across the world, the same all-seeing motif appears in Hindu tradition as the third eye of Shiva, a vortex of cosmic vision. How did this singular image become a global shorthand for divine surveillance? The Freemasons didn't invent the symbol, they repurposed it. When they embedded the eye into the Great Seal of the United States in 1782, they were tapping into an older current of esoteric thought, the idea that certain initiates could access higher knowledge. Medieval alchemists had drawn it as the eye of God hovering above the universe, while Renaissance painters hid it in frescoes as a nod to celestial oversight. But here's where the plot thickens. 19th century occultists like Helena Blavatsky claimed the symbol originated in Atlantis, a relic of an advanced race who used it to mark their surveillance technology, or worse, their control over humanity. Modern conspiracy theories have latched onto this notion, suggesting the eye represents a literal network of ancient monitoring devices buried beneath sacred sites. More grounded researchers point to its psychological power. The human brain is wired to respond to eye-like shapes, triggering instinctive awareness of being watched. This panopticon effect may explain why cultures from the Aztecs to the Buddhists incorporated the motif into temples to inspire moral behavior through perceived divine scrutiny. Yet the most compelling evidence lies in astronomy. Some scholars argue the eye's triangular frame mirrors the alignment of Orion's belt, a constellation linked to rebirth in multiple cultures. Others see it as a solar symbol, its rays echoing sunbursts depicted in cave paintings 30,000 years old. Whether as a celestial map, a spiritual reminder, or a fragment of lost technology, the Eye of Providence refuses to be pinned down. Its persistence challenges us to ask, are we being watched, or are we the ones who have forgotten how to see? Now, consider this. If the eye truly spans from Egyptian tombs to modern currency, what does its evolution say about power? Symbols don't just reflect belief, they shape it. And as we turn to the next emblem, the Labyrinth, we'll unravel another thread in this tapestry of shared human imagination. Two serpents twine around a winged staff, their bodies forming perfect helices. This is the Caduceus, a symbol so loaded with contradictions that even modern doctors can't agree on its meaning. You've seen it on ambulances, pharmacy signs, and military medical insignia, but here's the twist. It might be the wrong emblem entirely. The Caduceus's history is a maze of mistaken identity and hidden layers, stretching from the temples of ancient Mesopotamia to the laboratories of Renaissance alchemists. Start with the obvious confusion. The Caduceus, with its twin snakes and wings, isn't the true symbol of healing. That honor belongs to the rod of Asclepius, a single serpent coiled around a plain staff, used by the Greek god of medicine. So how did the Caduceus, originally linked to commerce and cunning, hijack modern healthcare? The mix-up began in the 19th century when the U.S. Army Medical Corps adopted the Caduceus, possibly due to its resemblance to the Asclepian rod. But the deeper story reveals why this wasn't entirely a mistake. In Sumerian carvings from 4,000 years ago, the Caduceus appears in the hands of Ningishzida, a deity associated with both healing and the underworld, a bridge between life and death. The Greeks later tied it to Hermes, the messenger god who guided souls to the afterlife but also tricked mortals with illusions. Even in Hindu tradition, the intertwined serpents mirror the Ida and Pingala channels in Kundalini Yoga, representing the balance of opposing energies in the body. This duality, healing paired with deception, medicine mingled with magic, suggests the Caduceus was never just about curing disease. It was about transformation. Now consider the serpents themselves. Their helical path around the staff uncannily resembles the double helix of DNA, a structure unknown until the 20th century. Alchemists like Paracelsus believed the Caduceus encoded secrets of the Philosopher's Stone, with the serpents symbolizing the fusion of sulfur and mercury, the raw materials of spiritual and physical transmutation. Some theorists go further, proposing the staff represents the human spine, with the serpents as Kundalini energy rising through the chakras. Could ancient cultures have intuitively grasped the body's energetic blueprint long before modern science mapped it? Then there's the most provocative theory, that the Caduceus depicts a lost healing technology. The wings atop the staff hint at ascension or higher frequencies, while the serpent's intersection points might map acupuncture meridians or even plasma filaments in the body. Texts from the Library of Alexandria reportedly described Caduceus-like devices used to manipulate vital air, an idea that resurfaced in Tesla's experiments with electromagnetic fields. Whether myth or memory, the symbol's persistence raises a haunting question. Did our ancestors know more about the body's hidden energies than we've rediscovered? Today, the Caduceus hangs in an uneasy limbo, reviled by medical purists as a symbol of quackery. yet embraced by others as a reminder that healing has always been part science, part mystery. Its tangled history forces us to confront medicine's shadow side, the fine line between remedy and risk, between healer and charlatan. Perhaps that's why it endures. Not as a mistake, but as a warning, and a promise that true healing requires both wisdom and wonder. As we unravel the next symbol, the labyrinth, we'll step into a pattern so universal it seems etched into the human psyche, a path that leads us inward even as it spans across continents. A perfect circle encloses an explosion of geometric precision, petals, squares, triangles, and gates radiating outward in hypnotic symmetry. This is the mandala, a Sanskrit word meaning cosmic diagram, though its influence stretches far beyond the temples of Tibet. From Navajo sand paintings to the rose windows of Notre Dame, cultures separated by continents and centuries have been drawn to this same circular language of sacred geometry. But why? What is it about these intricate designs that speak so universally to the human spirit? Consider the Tibetan Buddhist Kalachakra mandala, painstakingly crafted from colored sand over days or weeks. Monks meditate on its layers, the outer ring of fire symbolizing transformation, the inner palace representing enlightenment before destroying it in a ritual dissolution. The message is clear: existence is both exquisitely patterned and impermanent. Yet halfway across the world, Native American dream catchers weave similar circular webs, believing the design filters chaos from dreams just as the mandala filters illusion from reality. Even Christian cathedrals echo this pattern in their rose windows, where stained glass radiates from a central Christ figure like sunlight through prisms. The mandala's power may lie in its dual nature, both map and mirror. Some scholars argue these designs encode astronomical knowledge. The Aztec sun stone, often called a calendar, aligns its concentric rings with celestial cycles, while Hindu yantras use geometric ratios said to resonate with planetary vibrations. Others see them as architectural blueprints. Cambodia's Angkor Wat, when viewed from above, reveals itself as a colossal three-dimensional mandala, its towers marking celestial coordinates. But the most intriguing theory comes from neuroscience. Studies show that viewing mandalas activates the brain's default mode network, the same region engaged during deep meditation. It's as if these designs are keys to altered states, crafted through trial and error across millennia. Carl Jung famously used mandalas in psychotherapy, observing how patients spontaneously drew circular symbols during periods of inner transformation. He called them archetypes of wholeness, proof that the psyche seeks balance through sacred geometry. Modern physicists find their own echoes in the mandala. Quark arrangements in particle colliders often mirror these ancient patterns, suggesting a hidden order beneath apparent chaos. So were mandalas meant to align consciousness with higher realms? The answer seems to be yes and more. They're bridges between microcosm and macrocosm, teaching that the universe's grand design might be found in the turn of a flower, the swirl of a galaxy, or the quiet focus of a monk tracing lines in sand. As we turn to the next symbol, the labyrinth, we'll encounter another circular mystery, one that guides seekers not toward the center, but through the winding path of revelation itself. Flames erupt in a blinding burst, then fade to reveal a single bird rising golden, renewed, untouchable by time. This is the phoenix, perhaps the most enduring symbol of transformation across civilizations. In Egyptian tombs, it's the Bennu bird perched on the sacred Persea tree, its cry marking the dawn of a new era. Greek poets describe it building its own funeral pyre, only to emerge reborn from the ashes. Even in Chinese mythology, the Feng Huang glides through fire unscathed, a harmony of yin and yang made feather and flame. But here's what binds these versions together: the phoenix isn't just about resurrection. It's about cycles, specifically the terrifying, awe-inspiring idea that destruction might be necessary for renewal. Now, consider the possibility that this myth isn't just metaphor. Some researchers point to ancient texts hinting at real catastrophes, comet impacts, solar flares, even abrupt pole shifts that could have devastated early civilizations. The phoenix's 500-year cycle, described by Herodotus, aligns eerily with scientific estimates of recurrent cosmic events. Take the Younger Dryas period around 12,000 years ago, when Earth's temperature plummeted suddenly, possibly due to a comet strike. Could survivors of such disasters have encoded their trauma and their hope into this symbol? The phoenix's fire might not just represent spiritual rebirth, but literal fires from the sky that reshaped the world. The symbol's scientific undertones grow stranger. In alchemy, the phoenix represents the final stage of the great work. The moment base lead transforms into gold, mirroring the bird's own metamorphosis. Modern physics offers an uncanny parallel. Stars dying in supernova scatter heavy elements like gold across the cosmos, meaning every piece of jewelry owes its existence to celestial destruction. Even quantum theory nods to the phoenix, with particles constantly annihilating and recreating themselves in the void. But the most haunting interpretation lies in human psychology. Cultures that never interacted, from the Aztecs with their fiery Quetzalcoatl to Slavic tales of the firebird, all envisioned a creature that dies blazing only to return stronger. This isn't just coincidence, it's a collective recognition of resilience coded into our myths because we've lived it. After plagues, wars, volcanic winters, humanity keeps rising. The phoenix isn't just a warning about disasters past, it's a promise. No matter how deep the ashes, we're wired to rise from them. Now turn your gaze to the next symbol, the labyrinth, where the path twists not through fire, but through the maze of human memory itself. 3 interlocked triangles form a shape so precise it seems to defy time. This is the Valknut, the Norse knot of the slain. Carved onto 8th century runestones and etched into Germanic burial artifacts, this symbol pulses with mystery. Unlike the chaotic swirl of most Viking art, the Valknut's clean lines and perfect symmetry suggest something startling, a grasp of advanced geometry centuries before formal mathematics. But here's what chills the bones: this wasn't just decoration. The Valknut appears exclusively in scenes of death, sacrifice, and Odin's presence, as if marking a doorway between worlds. Consider the Stora Hammer stone in Sweden, where the Valknut hovers above a warrior's funeral pyre, its triangles framing Odin's ravens. In Norse lore, the god himself used magic to bind and unbind minds, weaving fate like a knot. The Valknut's threefold structure mirrors this power. Each triangle could represent the 3 Norns weaving destiny, the 3 roots of Yggdrasil anchoring the cosmos, or even Odin's self-sacrifice when he hung for 9 nights on the world tree to gain wisdom. But the deeper truth might lie in the symbol's geometry. Modern mathematicians note that the Valknut's angles align with the Borromean rings, a topological phenomenon where 3 interlocked circles form an unbreakable bond. Remove one, and the entire structure collapses. Could Viking shamans have understood this principle intuitively, encoding the interconnectedness of life, death, and destiny? Now shift perspective. Some researchers propose the Valknut wasn't just spiritual, it was a diagram. Its overlapping triangles resemble the atomic structure of certain crystals, or even quantum entanglement, where particles remain linked across distances. There's a haunting parallel to Norse beliefs that the dead could communicate with the living through dreams. Was the Valknut a map for navigating these thresholds? The symbol's appearance on oath rings objects used to swear unbreakable vows hints at its role as a metaphysical lock or key. The most chilling theory comes from the symbol's absence. You won't find the Valknut on everyday objects, only in graves, battle scenes, and near depictions of Odin's horse, Sleipnir, whose 8 legs symbolize travel between realms. This specificity suggests the symbol wasn't just revered, it was feared. Perhaps the Valknut wasn't merely about honoring the dead, but containing them or channeling their power. Today, the Valknut resurfaces in quantum physics diagrams and sacred geometry studies, its ancient edges fitting uncomfortably well with modern science. Whether as a warning, a prayer, or a portal, this Norse puzzle refuses to yield its secrets. It whispers that some knots aren't meant to be untied, only witnessed. And as we turn to the next symbol, the Labyrinth, we'll encounter another path where geometry and mystery collide. 2 blades curve outward from a central handle, mirroring each other with perfect symmetry. This is the Labries, an ancient double-headed axe that wielded power far beyond the battlefield. Unearthed in the ruins of Minoan palaces, clutched in the hands of Amazonian warrior queens, even brandished by the Hindu goddess Kali, this weapon wasn't just for splitting wood or skulls. It was a sacred object, a key to understanding how ancient cultures viewed the delicate balance between creation and chaos, between the divine feminine and raw, untamed strength. Take the Minoans of Crete, who painted the Labries on temple walls and stamped it onto seals alongside serpent goddesses. Here, it wasn't a tool of war but a ceremonial instrument, its dual blades representing the horns of the sacred bull, a symbol of both fertility and sacrifice. Priestesses likely wielded it during rituals, channeling its power to bridge the earthly and spiritual realms, but traveled to the steppes of Scythia, and the Labries takes on a fiercer role. Greek historians like Herodotus described Amazon warriors swinging double axes with lethal precision, their blades embodying the paradox of womanhood, life-givers who could also be unstoppable destroyers. Now consider the Hindu tradition where Kali's axe cleaves through illusion, severing attachments to reveal truth. The Labries' duality here is profound, each blade a counterweight, one cutting away ignorance, the other freeing the soul. This isn't just symbolism, it's a recurring theme. In Anatolia, the Hittites worshipped the storm god Teshub, who wielded a double axe to summon rain and destruction in equal measure. Even the Romans, who adopted the Labries as the fasces, bundled it with rods to represent unity and authority, though its later misuse as a fascist emblem echoes the danger of misinterpreting ancient power. What's startling is the precision of its design. Unlike single-headed axes, the Labries distributes weight perfectly, making it surprisingly agile. Some researchers argue it was used in bull-leaping ceremonies, where acrobats would vault over charging animals, a dance of death and rebirth. Others point to its resemblance to the butterfly, a universal symbol of transformation. The more you examine it, the clearer it becomes. This was never just a weapon. It was a philosophical statement carved in bronze and stone. Modern excavations add another layer. Labries found in Minoan sanctuaries often show no signs of wear, suggesting they were votive offerings, not tools. Their blades frequently bear lunar motifs, linking them to menstrual cycles and the cyclical nature of time. Could the double axe have been a blueprint for understanding the universe's opposing forces? From the Amazonian battlefields to Kali's midnight dances, the Labries whispers a truth we're still grappling with. True power lies not in dominance, but in balance. As we turn to the next symbol, keep this duality in mind, because the deeper we go, the more these ancient designs reveal about the tensions that shape our world. A single bloom rises from murky depths, its petals unfurling in perfect symmetry against the water's surface. This is the lotus, nature's most elegant paradox. Sacred to the Buddha, who likened enlightenment to its unstained emergence from sludge, revered by Egyptian priests who saw in its daily cycle the sun's rebirth, this flower isn't just a symbol. It's a living cipher, its very structure whispering secrets across cultures. What makes the lotus so extraordinary isn't merely its resilience, but its precision. Count its petals, and you'll find numbers that mirror sacred mathematics, 8 in Tibetan mandalas for the noble eightfold path, 1,000 in Hindu texts representing infinite potential, 12 in Egyptian depictions aligning with the hours of night and day. Look closer, and the lotus reveals its hidden geometry. The Fibonacci spiral governs its growth, the same mathematical sequence found in galaxies and hurricanes. Its seeds develop in logarithmic spirals, mirroring the curvature of the universe itself. Temples from Angkor Wat to Karnak were designed as stone lotuses, their pillars and courtyards radiating like petals to harness energy or align with celestial events. The Hindu text Bhagavata Purana describes the universe as a giant lotus blooming from Vishnu's navel, its stem connecting earthly and divine realms, an image eerily similar to modern depictions of the cosmic web, where galaxies cluster along filament-like structures. But here's what chills the spine. The lotus appears where it shouldn't. In the ruins of Mohenjo-Daro, seals depict deities seated on lotus thrones 5,000 years ago, millennia before the flower became central to Buddhism. Aztec codices show water lilies, a new world cousin of the lotus, sprouting from the mouths of sacrificed gods, symbolizing rebirth through violence. Even the Mayan world tree, piercing through the underworld, bears lotus-like blossoms at its crown. How did these cultures, separated by oceans, fixate on the same floral blueprint? Some researchers propose the lotus was more than metaphor, it was technology. The flower's unique ability to regulate temperature, keeping its core exactly 20 degrees warmer than its environment, mirrors principles of sacred architecture. Tibetan monks meditate on lotus postures not just for spiritual alignment, but because the position may enhance bioenergetic flow. The most radical theory comes from ancient Egyptian texts, which hint at lotus machines, devices said to purify water or generate light, possibly inspired by the plant's natural piezoelectric properties. Whether myth or lost science, the lotus persists as a living bridge between mud and stars, its roots in the dark, its face forever turned toward the light. Now consider this: when modern physicists map the quantum foam underlying reality, their diagrams resemble nothing so much as lotus petals unfolding in zero gravity. Perhaps the ancients weren't just poets, perhaps they were botanists of the soul, cultivating a truth we're only now beginning to measure. Antlers rise like a crown from the forehead of a figure seated cross-legged, his hands clasping a serpent and a torque. This is Cernunnos, the Celtic lord of beasts carved onto the Gundestrup cauldron 2,000 years ago. Yet halfway across the world, a nearly identical deity gazes from the seals of the Indus Valley, Pashupati, the lord of animals, surrounded by tigers and elephants, his horns curling toward the heavens. From the goat-legged Pan of Greek groves to the stag god of Siberian shamans, horned deities emerge again and again, not as monsters, but as masters of life's wild, untamed pulse. What unites these figures across continents isn't just their iconography, it's their unsettling duality. They are both givers and takers, embodying nature's boundless generosity and its merciless indifference. Consider the rituals tied to these gods. In Gaul, worshippers offered Cernunnos twisted gold necklaces, torques, symbolizing both wealth and bondage, a nod to nature's dual role as provider and captor. Hindu texts describe Pashupati as both gentle herdsman and fierce destroyer, his horns echoing the crescent moon's cycle of waxing and waning. Even Pan, often reduced to a mischievous satyr, carried a darker aspect. His sudden shrieks in the wilderness could induce panic, a madness that mirrored nature's unpredictable wrath. These weren't just gods of the hunt or harvest. They were mirrors reflecting humanity's fraught relationship with the wild, a force to be revered, feared, and never fully controlled. Now, look deeper. The horned god's symbolism may stretch back further than recorded history. Cave paintings in France's Lascaux, dating back 17,000 years, depict a shamanic figure with antlers, arms raised in a posture still used by Siberian shamans today to channel animal spirits. Some researchers argue these deities represent remnants of a prehistoric proto-religion, where early humans sought intermediaries between their tribes and the untamed world. The ubiquity of horned imagery, from the buffalo-headed spirits of Native American plains to the ram-horned Khnum of Egypt, suggests a shared psychological archetype, the need to personify nature's raw power in a form both familiar and awe-inspiring. But here's where it twists. Medieval Christians demonized these horned figures, recasting them as Satan, a deliberate inversion meant to sever pagan ties to nature's cycles. Yet even this corruption couldn't erase their power. Folk traditions kept the horned god alive in green men carved into cathedral walls. In May Day dances where antlered figures led fertility rites, even in the whispered names of forest spirits. Today, ecologists note how these ancient symbols resonate anew as we grapple with climate change. The horned god's lesson, that humanity isn't nature's conqueror, but one thread in its vast web, feels urgently modern. Perhaps these deities endure because they speak to something primal in us all. The recognition that life cannot exist without death, that growth springs from decay, and that true wisdom lies not in dominating the wild, but in remembering we are part of it. As we turn to the next symbol, the labyrinth, we'll trace another path through humanity's oldest fears and longings, one that winds inward toward the center of our own mysteries. A circle divided into 4 equal parts by a cross, this is the Sun Cross, one of humanity's most enduring and enigmatic symbols. Etched into the stones of prehistoric European tombs, woven into the designs of Native American medicine wheels, even carved onto Celtic talks as if marking some universal rhythm, this simple shape carries a weight far beyond its minimal lines. At first glance, it seems almost too basic to hold meaning, yet its persistence across cultures separated by oceans and millennia suggests something deeper, something coded into the very fabric of human understanding. Take the Neolithic petroglyphs of Ireland's Loughborough cairns, where the sun cross appears alongside spirals and zigzags, its arms aligned with the rising sun on the equinox. Or the Hopi people of the American Southwest, whose sacred Sipapu, a small hole in ceremonial kivas, is often surrounded by a cross-in-circle motif representing the 4 cardinal directions and the emergence of life from the underworld. Even in ancient Mesopotamia, the same symbol adorned cylinder seals, its arms possibly mapping the path of Venus across the night sky. The sheer geographic spread of this design raises an irresistible question. How could farming communities in Europe, nomadic tribes in the Americas, and river valley civilizations in the Middle East all arrive at the same visual shorthand for cosmic order? One answer lies in the sky. Archaeoastronomers note that the sun crosses 4 arms perfectly mirror the solar year's pivotal moments, the 2 solstices and 2 equinoxes that divide the year into equal quarters. For agricultural societies, these weren't just celestial events. They were lifelines, dictating when to plant, harvest, and prepare for winter. The symbol may have functioned as a primitive calendar, its circle representing the eternal cycle of seasons, its cross marking the critical turning points. But there's a compelling twist. Some sun crosses found in Scandinavia and the British Isles are oriented to lunar standstills, the points where the moon reaches its extreme positions in the sky every 18.6 years. This level of precision hints at an advanced understanding of celestial mechanics long before telescopes or written records. Then there's the navigational theory. Polynesian voyagers used star compasses divided into quadrants, not unlike the sun cross, to traverse thousands of miles of open ocean. The Lakota people's sacred hoop, another variation of the symbol, served as a spiritual and physical map, its lines corresponding to the four winds and the paths of migrating animals. Could this simple design have been humanity's first GPS, a way to encode direction and movement in an era before maps? But the most provocative interpretation comes from fringe researchers, who point to the sun cross's resemblance to the electromagnetic field of a torus, a donut-shaped energy pattern that appears at every scale, from atoms to galaxies. Modern physicists recognize the torus as a fundamental structure in nature, seen in the magnetic fields of planets and the shape of black hole accretion disks. If ancient cultures intuitively grasped this pattern's significance, the sun cross might not just represent the sun's path, it could symbolize the underlying geometry of the cosmos itself. Whether as calendar, compass, or cosmic blueprint, the sun cross endures because it speaks to a truth we're still unraveling, that the universe operates in cycles and symmetries, and that humanity's oldest symbols might still hold keys to understanding them. As we turn to the next symbol, we'll encounter another design that bridges earth and sky, one that twists through history like a serpent chasing its own tail. Tiered like giant staircases clawing toward the sky, Zigorates dominate the landscapes of ancient Mesopotamia, but step into the jungles of Guatemala or the plains of Cambodia, and you'll find their twins. The Mayan pyramid of El Castillo, the Mesopotamian ziggurat of Ur, the Hindu temples of Angkor Wat, all share that unmistakable step design, as if civilizations across the globe were following the same divine blueprint. These weren't just places of worship, they were bridges between Earth and something far beyond. Start with the obvious, their shape. Unlike smooth-sided Egyptian pyramids, ziggurates boast distinct levels, each tier representing a stage of ascension. In Mesopotamia, they were called the bond between heaven and earth, with shrines at their summits where priests communed with gods. The Mayans took this further, aligning their pyramids so precisely that during equinoxes, shadows slither down the steps like serpents, a deliberate illusion bringing their feathered serpent deity Kukulkan to life. But here's where it gets eerie. The Borobudur temple in Indonesia, built 12,000 kilometers away, mirrors this design exactly. 9 stacked terraces leading to enlightenment, a physical manifestation of the Buddhist path to nirvana. How could cultures with no known contact arrive at the same architectural solution? One theory points to practicality. The stepped structure is inherently stable, resistant to earthquakes, a necessity in regions like Mesopotamia and Central America. But that doesn't explain the celestial precision. The ziggurat of Ur's corners align with the cardinal directions, while Cambodia's Baksay Chamkrong pyramid encodes the lunar cycle in its 4 tiers. Some researchers propose these weren't just temples but giant energy conduits. The ziggurate's layers, often coated in bitumen or polished limestone, could have acted as capacitors, storing and amplifying telluric currents from the earth. Ancient texts describe divine radiance emanating from their summits, and modern instruments have detected unusual electromagnetic fluctuations at sites like Teotihuacan. Were these structures tapping into natural forces we're only now beginning to measure? Then there's the most controversial idea, that ziggurates were landing beacons. The Sumerian king list speaks of gods descending from the sky to their ziggurat temples, while Mayan glyphs depict winged beings arriving atop pyramids. Even the Sanskrit word Vimana, often translated as celestial chariot, bears a striking resemblance to descriptions of ziggurats as lofty houses of the gods. Could their uniform shape have served as a homing signal for something or someone from above? Today, as drones map the alignments of these ancient towers, we're left with more questions than answers. Whether as spiritual escalators, energy antennas, or interstellar runways, ziggurats stand as silent witnesses to a time when humanity built not just for the Earth, but for the cosmos. Their steps don't just lead upward, they beckon us to climb beyond what we think we know. A single unbroken line twists back on itself in an endless dance of right angles. This is the meander, better known as the Greek key pattern. At first glance, it seems like simple decoration, adorning the borders of classical vases and the hem of Roman togas. But follow its path, and you'll discover a symbol so universal it winds through Chinese jade carvings, Maori facial tattoos, and even the geometric precision of Navajo textiles. This isn't just art, it's a silent whisper about the nature of existence itself, a belief that life, like the meander's unbroken line, has no true beginning or end. Consider the name. Meander comes from the twisting Büyük Menderes River in Turkey, a waterway so serpentine it became synonymous with wandering, yet the symbol predates the term by millennia. In ancient Greece, it framed temple friezes as a representation of infinity, the eternal flow of time and fate. The Chinese called it the thunder pattern, associating its sharp turns with the zigzag of lightning, a force both destructive and regenerative. For the Maori, the same design, known as unbroken, symbolized the interconnectedness of all things, inked onto skin as a reminder that every life is part of a greater continuum. Now trace the pattern's path with your finger. Notice how it folds back on itself without crossing, creating a labyrinth in 2 dimensions. Some scholars argue this wasn't accidental. The meander mirrors the layout of ancient pilgrimage routes, like the spiraling path to Crete's Mount Ida or the circuitous journey through Egypt's Temple of Karnak. Could these designs have served as coded maps, guiding initiates through physical and spiritual landscapes? The Hopi people of North America tell of the man in the maze, a symbol nearly identical to the Greek key, representing the twists and turns of human existence before reaching the center, enlightenment. The most tantalizing theory ties the meander to reincarnation. In the tombs of Mycenae, the pattern encircles burial sites like an unbroken chain, suggesting the soul's cyclical journey. Hindu mandalas feature similar labyrinthine borders, symbolizing samsara, the endless cycle of death and rebirth. Even the repetitive, meditative act of drawing the meander mirrors the Buddhist practice of creating sand mandalas, destruction and recreation as a path to wisdom. Yet here's the puzzle. The meander's mathematical perfection, its ability to tile infinitely without overlap, suggests something beyond spirituality. Modern engineers use variations of this pattern in microchip design, where uninterrupted circuits are essential. Biologists find its structure echoed in the folding patterns of proteins, the building blocks of life. Perhaps the ancients weren't just philosophizing about eternity. Perhaps they were encoding a fundamental truth about the universe, that at every scale, from the cosmic to the microscopic, existence moves in loops, not lines. So the next time you see this simple geometric motif on a museum artifact, a piece of jewelry, even a modern logo pause, that twisting line isn't just decoration. It's a 4,000-year-old invitation to ponder the great mystery. Are we walking a straight path, or are we all part of the same endless, beautiful meander? Carved into the stone pillars of Göbekli Tepe, clutched in the hands of Sumerian deities, even cradled by colossal Olmec heads, a peculiar shape emerges again and again. It looks unmistakably like a modern handbag with a sturdy handle and a boxy base, yet these carvings predate woven fabric by millennia. This is no ordinary accessory. Dubbed the handbag of the gods, this enigmatic object appears across continents and epochs, always held by figures of power, giants, gods, and otherworldly beings. What makes this symbol so unsettling isn't just its anachronistic design, but its eerie consistency. From the marshes of ancient Iraq to the jungles of Mesoamerica, the proportions remain identical, a perfect rectangle suspended from a curved grip, as if mass-produced. Take the Anunnaki carvings of Sumer, where winged beings hold the handbag aloft like a sacred relic. In Olmec art, it dangles from the wrists of helmeted figures with elongated skulls, beings often depicted alongside celestial symbols. Even at Göbekli Tepe, the world's oldest known temple, the handbag appears beside carvings of animals and abstract shapes, suggesting it held ritual significance. The sheer geographic and temporal spread of this image raises a chilling question. How could Neolithic hunter-gatherers in Turkey, Bronze Age scribes in Mesopotamia, and pre-Columbian sculptors in Mexico all depict the same object with such precision? One theory points to practicality. Some researchers argue the handbag was a symbolic container for sacred seeds or medicinal herbs, a universal tool for agrarian societies. Others propose it represented the bag of winds from global storm god myths, a divine tool to control weather. But the most provocative idea comes from alternative historians, who note the handbag's resemblance to ancient batteries or energy devices. The Baghdad battery, a clay jar with copper and iron components, proves that early civilizations experimented with electricity. Could the handbag symbolize a lost technology, a portable power source wielded by elite figures? Its frequent appearance alongside celestial imagery, stars, sun disks, and winged beings lends weight to this theory. Then there's the spiritual interpretation. In Hindu tradition, the god Brahma carries a pot of Amrita, the elixir of immortality. Tibetan Buddhist monks use ritual pouches called gao to hold sacred texts or relics. The handbag might symbolize hidden wisdom, a vessel for esoteric knowledge passed down by advanced beings. The uniformity of its design suggests something more than local superstition. It hints at a shared experience, a memory so potent it transcended cultural boundaries. Perhaps the most haunting detail is the handbag's absence in everyday artifacts. You won't find it on kitchenware or in burial goods. It exists exclusively in sacred contexts, clutched by those who stand between worlds. Whether as tool, battery, or metaphysical container, its message is clear. Some secrets aren't meant to be left out in the open. They're carried carefully, handed down through stone and story, waiting for us to recognize the pattern. Now shift your gaze to the next symbol, one that doesn't just appear across cultures, but seems to pulse with a rhythm older than time itself. A crouching silhouette emerges from the desert sands, its lion's body tensed as if ready to pounce, its human face gazing toward the horizon with ancient knowing. This is the Sphinx, not just Egypt's silent sentinel, but a riddle carved in stone across civilizations. From the windswept plains of Mesopotamia to the jungles of Cambodia, variations of this hybrid creature stand guard, always at thresholds, always watching. What's chilling isn't just its ubiquity, but its consistency. No matter where it appears, the Sphinx is never just a statue. It's a gatekeeper, a question woven into flesh and stone. Start with Egypt's Great Sphinx of Giza, its paws stretched toward the Nile, its eyes aligned with the rising sun on the equinox. Unlike later Greek depictions, this original lacks wings. Its power isn't in flight, but in rootedness. The hieroglyphic name, Hu, associates it with the voice of the gods, suggesting it didn't merely guard tombs, but spoke truths to those who could listen. Then shift to the Greek version, where the Sphinx becomes a merciless quizmaster, strangling travelers who fail to solve her paradox. What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 at noon, and 3 in the evening? The answer, man, crawling as a baby, walking upright, then leaning on a cane, hints at the Sphinx's true role, a mirror forcing humanity to confront its own mortality. Now trace the symbol eastward. In Sri Lanka's Sigiriya rock fortress, a colossal lion's gate once greeted visitors, its remaining paws still radiating authority. Hindu tradition speaks of the Purushamrika, a sphinx-like being that tests devotees' purity. Even Buddhist temples in Thailand feature sphinxes called Manusiha, their human heads and lion bodies symbolizing the Buddha's mastery over human and animal realms. This isn't coincidence, it's a pattern. Wherever the Sphinx appears, it marks a boundary between the known and the unknowable, demanding passage be earned rather than taken. But here's where the mystery deepens. 19th century explorers like Giovanni Caviglia found tunnels beneath the Giza Sphinx, sparking theories of hidden chambers, perhaps even the legendary Hall of Records, said to hold Atlantean secrets. Ground-penetrating radar has revealed anomalies under the paws and along the flanks, cavities that could be natural or carved. The Sphinx's original head may have been recarved from an earlier, possibly zoomorphic figure, its body bearing water erosion patterns suggesting origins far older than dynastic Egypt. Could this monument be a placeholder for something older, a warning or waypoint left by a lost civilization? The most compelling theory ties the Sphinx to celestial maps. Its gaze aligns with the constellation Leo during the Age of Leo around 10,500 BCE, an epoch when the Nile's floods supposedly began. Robert Bovell's Orion correlation theory posits that the Giza complex mirrors the stars of Orion's belt, with the Sphinx as the terrestrial counterpart to the celestial lion. If true, the Sphinx isn't just guarding physical secrets, it's a time capsule, its stones encoding astronomical data from an era before recorded history. Yet the Sphinx's greatest lesson might be psychological. Carl Jung saw it as an archetype of the terrible mother, the duality of creation and destruction. Its lion half embodies primal instinct, its human half the intellect, a fusion reminding us that wisdom lies in balancing both. Modern visitors often report an uncanny sensation when meeting its gaze, as if the statue is on the verge of speech. Perhaps that's the real riddle. The Sphinx doesn't just ask questions, it compels us to ask them of ourselves about time, power, and what we're willing to lose in pursuit of truth. Now consider this, if the Sphinx is a universal symbol, why does every culture insist it guards something? Not just gold or scrolls, but the kind of knowledge that rewrites history. As we turn to the next symbol, keep that question close, because some doors once opened can't be shut again. A weapon forged not of steel, but of pure cosmic force. This is the Vajra, the thunderbolt of enlightenment clutched in the hands of Hindu deities and Tibetan lamas alike. At first glance, it seems simple, a central sphere with prongs erupting from each end like frozen lightning. But this is no ordinary ritual object. In the Rig Veda, India's oldest sacred text, the Vajra is the weapon of Indra, king of gods, capable of shattering mountains and slaying drought-causing demons. Yet in Buddhist monasteries, that same shape becomes the Dorje, a symbol of unshakable wisdom that cuts through illusion. How can one object embody both destructive power and transcendent truth? The answer lies in its paradoxical nature. The Vajra's Sanskrit name means both diamond and thunderbolt, the hardest substance known to ancients combined with the sky's most fearsome energy. This duality isn't accidental. Tibetan artisans craft ritual vajras from meteoritic iron, material literally fallen from the heavens, while their hollow centers represent the void from which all creation emerges. The prongs, usually 5 or 9, mirror the Buddhist 5 wisdoms or the 9 levels of consciousness. Even the way it's held speaks volumes. One hand grips the vajra while the other holds a bell, symbolizing the union of masculine clarity and feminine wisdom. But here's where the mystery ignites. Ancient texts describe vajras with unnerving specificity. The Mahabharata recounts vajras emitting beams of light that reduce armies to ash, while Jain scriptures speak of thunderbolt machines used by legendary heroes. Some researchers point to the Baghdad battery as evidence that early cultures harnessed electricity. Could the vajra have been a stylized capacitor or plasma weapon? The descriptions align eerily with modern directed energy devices. Even the vajra's shape, a central axis with symmetrical discharges, resembles the toroidal fields generated by Tesla coils or the double helix of DNA. Then there's the spiritual interpretation. In esoteric Buddhism, the vajra represents the moment of satori, the lightning strike of enlightenment that obliterates ego in an instant. Hindu Tantra uses it as a meditation tool, visualizing its prongs as channels for Kundalini energy. Modern physicists might call it a metaphor for quantum fluctuations, sudden bursts of creation from emptiness. Whether as weapon, tool, or symbol, the vajra's message is clear. True power isn't in destruction, but in transformation, the ability to shatter illusion and reveal what was always there. Perhaps the most haunting clue lies in the Indus Valley, where seals dating back 4,000 years show figures holding vajra-like objects alongside what appear to be levitating orbs. Were these imaginative symbols or blueprints? As with all great mysteries, the vajra refuses to yield a single answer. It remains suspended between worlds, part artifact, part allegory, and entirely electrifying. 3 interwoven arcs form a shape that seems to dance before your eyes. This is the triquetra, a symbol so fluid it feels alive. Found in the margins of Celtic manuscripts, etched into Norse runestones, even hidden in the stonework of early Christian churches, this triple knot design isn't just decorative. It's a puzzle, a perfect geometric expression of the number 3's sacred power. But here's what's astonishing. Cultures that never met arrived at the same conclusion, that reality itself might be structured in triads, and that this truth could be captured in a single, endless line. Start with the Celts, who wove the triquetra into their metalwork with such precision that historians suspect compasses were used. For them, it likely represented the triple goddess, maiden, mother, crone, or the 3 realms of land, sea, and sky. Yet in Norse mythology, the same symbol appears alongside depictions of Odin, its 3 loops echoing the 3 wells of destiny at the roots of Yggdrasil. When Christianity arrived, the triquetra was baptized anew, becoming a shorthand for the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit as distinct yet inseparable. This adaptability hints at something deeper. The triquetra isn't tied to any single dogma. It's a vessel capable of holding countless meanings without contradiction. Now trace its path with your finger. Unlike static symbols, the triquetra's loops have no true beginning or end. Modern mathematicians classify it as a Borromean knot, where 3 elements interlock so perfectly that removing one collapses the entire structure. This isn't just artistry, it's advanced topology, a concept formalized only in the 20th century. Some theoretical physicists have noted its resemblance to quantum entanglement diagrams, where particles remain mysteriously linked across distances. Could the triquetra encode an ancient intuition about the fabric of reality? The most compelling evidence comes from its persistence in sacred spaces. In the Book of Kells, the triquetra frames scenes of resurrection, its loops mirroring the cyclical nature of life and death. Hindu temples feature similar tripartite symbols like the Trisula, representing creation, preservation, and destruction. Even modern chaos theory finds echoes in the triquetra. The three-body problem describes how three celestial objects orbit in an endlessly complex dance, never repeating yet never breaking apart. Perhaps the triquetra's greatest mystery is its psychological grip. Studies show that the human brain processes triadic patterns faster than any other, suggesting we're neurologically wired to seek balance in threes. From the three dimensions we navigate to the three states of matter we encounter daily, our world unfolds in triads. The ancients might not have had the language of quantum physics or topology, but through symbols like the triquetra, they left us a map, one that still points toward truths we're only beginning to name. So the next time you encounter this triple, not whether in a medieval manuscript or a modern tattoo, pause. Its loops aren't just lines, they're an invitation to consider that the universe might not be binary but trinary. And that some mysteries, like the triquetra itself, refuse to be untangled. A blazing disk suspended between outstretched wings hovers above the heads of pharaohs in Egyptian temples, its golden surface radiating lines like sunbeams frozen in stone. This is the winged disk known as the Deity to the ancients, a symbol so pervasive it soars across cultures, from the temples of Horus at Edfu to the palace reliefs of Persian kings. At first glance, it seems straightforward, a sun god's emblem perhaps, or a celestial chariot, but look closer and the details unsettle. The disk often appears with twin serpents coiled around it, their bodies forming a perfect caduceus. The wings aren't static, they're depicted mid-beat as if caught in motion, and the disk itself, sometimes it's smooth, other times detailed with intricate patterns resembling vents or hatches. What if this wasn't just art but a record? The orthodox explanation ties the symbol to solar worship. In Egypt, it represented Horus the Deity, a falcon-headed god whose wings shielded the pharaoh. The Persians adopted it as Faravaha, a divine guardian symbolizing the soul's ascent. Even the Hittites carved it above their kings, calling it the winged sun. But here's where the narrative frays. The disk's proportions are unnervingly consistent across regions, its diameter often matching the wingspan in a precise 1:3 ratio, a design choice more technical than decorative. Some carvings show the disk emitting not rays, but segmented lines resembling modern depictions of propulsion. And then there's the placement. These symbols crown temple doorways and throne rooms, always at the highest point, as if marking a point of arrival or departure. Alternative theorists point to a startling possibility. The disk might not represent the sun at all, but a vehicle. Ancient texts complicate the solar interpretation. The pyramid texts describe the deity as Horus of the winged disk who traverses the sky in a whirlwind. A Sumerian cylinder seal shows a similar disk not in the heavens, but descending toward a ziggurat, with figures raising their arms as if in greeting or supplication. The most provocative evidence comes from the Temple of Seti I at Abydos, where a faded mural depicts the winged disk with a distinct, domed cabin beneath it, surrounded by what appear to be landing struts. Yet dismissing this as mere fantasy ignores the cultural weight behind the symbol. For the Maya, the winged disk was Kukulkan's celestial canoe. Hindu Vimanas, described in the Mahabharata as aerial chariots with the radiance of the sun, bear striking resemblance. Even the biblical Ezekiel's vision of wheels within wheels echoes the same imagery. Could these be fragmented memories of a shared experience? a technology so advanced it blurred the line between machine and divinity. Modern pilots have noted something uncanny. The winged disc silhouette, when rotated 90 degrees, mirrors the cross-section of a supersonic jet's shockwave. Its curved wings match the optimal shape for minimizing drag at high speeds. Coincidence, perhaps, but when symbols recur across millennia with such precision, it's worth asking, were the ancients depicting what they saw, not what they imagined? The winged disc challenges us to reconsider not just history, but humanity's place within it. Whether as divine metaphor or lost technology, its persistence suggests a truth hovering just beyond our grasp, one that demands we look upward with fresh eyes. Carved above church doorways and tucked into the shadows of medieval stonework, a startling figure stares back at you, eyes wide, knees bent, hands gripping her own exaggerated vulva as if offering it to the world. This is the Sheela na gig, one of Europe's most enigmatic and deliberately shocking symbols, found on over 100 churches and castles across Ireland, Britain, and France, often positioned near entryways or high on walls. These stone carvings of naked women defy easy explanation. Their grinning faces and contorted poses seem at odds with the solemn sanctity of their surroundings. What were these provocative figures doing on the sacred walls of Christendom? Theories abound, but none fully unravel the mystery. Some scholars argue Sheelas were protective talismans, their graphic display warding off evil spirits through the power of apotropaic magic, the ancient belief that shock and obscenity could repel harm. Similar symbols, like the grotesque gargoyles perched on cathedrals, served this purpose, yet the Sheela's specificity suggests something deeper. Her posture mirrors ancient birthing positions, and her exaggerated genitalia may symbolize fertility, linking her to pre-Christian earth goddesses like the Celtic Danu or the Cailleach. In Ireland, where many Sheelas cluster near holy wells, local folklore whispers they were guardians of sacred waters, their presence ensuring the land's vitality. But here's the twist: many Sheelas were deliberately defaced or hidden during the Victorian era, their meanings sanitized or erased. This suppression hints at a darker history. Medieval church records occasionally reference stone women being torn down as lewd idols, suggesting the church's uneasy relationship with these figures. Were Sheelas remnants of a pagan fertility cult, tolerated but not embraced by early Christian authorities? Their placement, often beside crosses or baptismal fonts, implies a grudging integration, as if the old gods were given a backdoor into the new faith. The most compelling clue lies in their craftsmanship. Unlike the refined saints and martyrs adorning altarpieces, Sheelas are crude, even comical. Their carvers used simple tools, their lines rough and urgent. This rawness suggests they weren't just decorative, they were urgent. Folklorist Maureen Concannon points to their resemblance to continental birthing stones, where women in labor would press against similar carvings for strength. Could Sheelas have been medieval midwives in stone, their open legs a silent guide for childbirth in an era when maternal mortality was high and medical knowledge scarce? Yet the mystery deepens when you trace their geographic spread. Sheelas appear in regions with strong Celtic heritage, but also in Normandy and northern Spain, areas linked by medieval pilgrimage routes. Some researchers propose they were waymarkers, their shocking imagery serving as mnemonic devices for travelers. Others note their similarity to Hindu yoni carvings or Mesopotamian goddess figurines, raising the possibility of a shared primal symbolism transcending cultures. Today, the Sheela na gig's unflinching gaze challenges our modern sensibilities. In an era where the female body is either policed or commodified, her unapologetic display feels radical. She refuses to be categorized neither wholly sacred nor profane, neither fully pagan nor Christian. Perhaps that's her power. She exists in the liminal spaces, a stone rebellion against silence, demanding we confront the raw, messy, life-giving force that civilization has so often tried to hide. As we turn to the next symbol, we'll encounter another guardian of thresholds, one that doesn't stand at the door, but lies beneath it, coiled and waiting. 13 circles interlock with mathematical precision, their lines intersecting to form a three-dimensional star. This is Metatron's cube, a geometric masterpiece hidden within the flower of life. Named after the angel Metatron, celestial scribe of Jewish mysticism, this symbol isn't just art. It's an architectural blueprint whispered across centuries, from the vaulted ceilings of Gothic cathedrals to the hidden corners of Renaissance alchemy manuscripts. But here's what chills the spine. When you overlay this pattern onto sacred sites like the Great Pyramid or Stonehenge, their proportions align with eerie accuracy. Was Metatron's cube a divine ruler, used to imprint cosmic order onto earthly stone? Start with its origins. The cube emerges when you connect the centers of the 13 spheres within the flower of life, an ancient pattern found in Egyptian temples and Chinese temples alike. Kabbalists believed it encoded the 5 Platonic solids: tetrahedron, cube, octahedron, dodecahedron, and icosahedron, the building blocks of reality itself. Renaissance thinkers like Leonardo da Vinci obsessed over these shapes, sketching them alongside human proportions in his Vitruvian Man. But the real shock comes when you see these forms echoed in nature: the tetrahedron in methane molecules, the icosahedron in virus shells, the dodecahedron in galactic clusters. It's as if Metatron's cube is less a symbol and more an instruction manual for existence. Now, consider the temples. The cube's geometric ratios appear in the floor plans of Chartres Cathedral, where labyrinth patterns mirror its intersecting lines. Byzantine architects used its angles to design Hagia Sophia's dome, creating acoustics so precise a whisper at the altar can be heard 50 meters away. Even the Kaaba in Mecca, when viewed from above, fits within the cube's hexagonal framework. These aren't coincidences, they're repetitions, as if builders across eras were tapping into the same geometric wellspring. The most tantalizing theory: Metatron's cube might be more than a design tool. Alchemists like John Dee drew it alongside Enochian scripts, claiming it could channel angelic energy. Modern researchers note its resemblance to the 64 tetrahedron grid in sacred geometry, a structure said to generate torsion fields, a hypothetical energy that could explain ley lines or earth energies. At CERN, physicists have even modeled quark interactions using similar geometric arrays. Whether as spiritual schema or scientific diagram, the cube's persistence suggests a truth we're still tracing: that the universe at its core is geometry in motion. So the next time you stand beneath a cathedral's soaring arches or run your fingers over an ancient mandala, look closer. The lines aren't just lines. They're echoes of a pattern older than time, one that still holds the keys to mysteries we've yet to unlock. A face emerges from stone, its features woven from oak leaves and vines, mouth agape as if exhaling the very breath of the forest. This is the Green Man, nature-given human form, his leafy visage peering from the capitals of medieval cathedrals, the pillars of Hindu temples, even the stonework of distant Mayan ruins. At first glance, he seems a simple decorative motif, but look closer. His eyes, often wide and unblinking, hold a knowing glint. His tangled beard isn't just foliage, it writhes with life, tendrils curling like serpents or roots digging into the stone. This isn't just art, it's a silent sermon carved in ivy and bark, one that whispers of humanity's oldest alliance and deepest fear, our bond with the wild. The Green Man's most haunting iterations cluster in Europe's Gothic cathedrals: Notre Dame, Chartres, Rosslyn Chapel, where his leafy face nestles among saints and angels, an unapologetic pagan guest at Christianity's table. But his roots dig much deeper. Hindu temple walls feature nearly identical Kurtamukha faces, their foliage spewing mouths symbolizing the cyclical devouring and regeneration of life. Celtic myths speak of Cernunnos, the antlered lord of beasts, while Mesopotamian seals depict similar figures with grain sprouting from their shoulders. The pattern is unmistakable. Wherever agriculture took root, so did the green man, his image a bridge between cultivated fields and untamed woods. What compelled cultures across continents to carve the same eerie hybrid? One theory points to the foliate head of Roman Dionysian cults, where initiates wore masks of vine leaves to symbolize rebirth. Yet the green man's persistence appearing in 9th century Iraqi metalwork and 15th century English miser records suggest something more universal. His face mirrors the leaf masks worn by shamans from Siberia to the Amazon, donned to channel the spirit of plants. Modern psychologists note how his image triggers pareidolia, our instinct to see faces in nature, as if he's the embodiment of our subconscious recognition that the forest watches us as we watch it. But the green man isn't just a benign symbol of fertility. In many carvings, his expression twists into a grimace, his foliage threatening to engulf the stone around him. Medieval stonemasons hid these darker versions in shadowy corners, their mouths gaping like traps. Folklore warns of the wild man, a green man variant who kidnaps children who stray too far into the woods. This duality, life-giver and predator, reflects nature's own balance. The same rains that nourish crops can flood villages, the same forests that provide shelter hide wolves. The green man's glare seems to ask, will you honor the pact or will you force my hand? Today, as climate change reshapes our world, his message feels urgent. Environmentalists adopt his image as an emblem of eco-consciousness, while scholars debate whether he represents a lost earth religion that revered nature's intelligence. Perhaps the green man endures because he's more than a symbol. He's a mirror, one that shows us, tangled in his leaves, the reflection we've tried to forget, that we are not masters of nature, but part of its endless, hungry green. A lattice of triangles, circles, and lotus petals converges toward a single point. This is the yantra, a meditation tool so precise it feels less like art and more like engineering. Found in Hindu and Buddhist traditions, these geometric diagrams aren't mere decorations. They're dynamic maps of the cosmos, designed to guide the mind into states of deep focus or even transcendence. What's astonishing isn't just their beauty, but their mathematical sophistication. The Sri Yantra, for instance, consists of 9 interlocking triangles, 4 pointing upward, 5 downward, that create 43 smaller triangles, all nested within concentric circles. The angles between these lines align with sacred ratios found in nature, from the spiral of a nautilus shell to the orbits of planets. The yantra's power lies in its structure. Each layer corresponds to a different plane of existence, from the earthly to the divine. The outermost square, called the Bupura, represents the physical world, while the central point, or Bindu, symbolizes pure consciousness. Meditators trace these layers inward with their gaze, collapsing the distance between the self and the infinite. But here's where science enters the conversation. Studies in neuroaesthetics reveal that symmetrical, fractal-rich patterns like those in yantras trigger gamma waves in the brain, the same frequencies associated with heightened awareness and insight. It's as if these designs are neural tuning forks, resonating with the mind's latent capacities. Now, consider the materials. Traditional yantras are etched onto copper plates or drawn with sandalwood paste on birch bark, materials known for their conductive and aromatic properties. Some tantric texts insist yantras must be activated through ritual and breathwork, suggesting they functioned as spiritual circuits. The most provocative theory comes from researchers like Gerald Feinberg, who proposed that geometric configurations could interact with zero-point energy. Could yantras have been ancient devices for harnessing subtle energies, their patterns acting as antennas for forces mainstream science is only beginning to explore? Yet the yantra's true genius might be its adaptability. In Buddhist mandalas, similar geometric principles guide meditation, but with a key difference: the focus on impermanence. Monks spend weeks crafting intricate sand mandalas only to dismantle them, a reminder that all forms are fleeting. Hindu yantras, by contrast, are often preserved, their permanence reflecting the eternal nature of the divine. This duality, form and formlessness, structure and flow, captures the essence of the spiritual journey. Whether as psychological tool, energy matrix, or cosmic blueprint, the yantra challenges our assumptions about the boundaries between art, science, and the sacred. Its lines don't just sit on paper, they vibrate, pulling us toward a truth that's felt rather than seen. A towering column segmented into 4 stacked blocks, its base flaring like roots gripping the earth. This is the Djed pillar, ancient Egypt's most enigmatic symbol of strength. Carved into temple walls and clutched in the hands of gods, it was far more than decoration. The Djed represented the spine of Osiris, the god of the afterlife, whose dismembered body was reassembled to conquer death itself. But look beyond the Nile, and you'll find echoes of this sacred pillar in the world trees of Norse mythology, the axis poles of Siberian shamans, even the totem poles of Pacific Northwest tribes. Why would cultures separated by continents fixate on the same vertical motif, and what hidden purpose might it have served? The Djed's ritual significance is well documented. During the raising of the Djed ceremony, priests would hoist the pillar with ropes, reenacting Osiris' resurrection and symbolizing the stability of the cosmos. Yet some researchers point to curious details in temple reliefs. At Abydos, the Djed is often depicted emitting wavy lines, resembling energy or sound vibrations. In the Temple of Hathor at Dendera, it appears alongside the Tesla coil-like devices known as Dendera bulbs, fueling speculation that the pillar wasn't just symbolic, it was functional. Engineer Christopher Dunn proposes the Djed could have been a resonant oscillator, its stacked segments designed to vibrate at specific frequencies. If true, might it have been used to stabilize ley lines or even manipulate gravitational fields? Now consider the global parallels. The Norse Yggdrasil, a colossal ash tree connecting 9 worlds, mirrors the Djed's role as a cosmic axis. Siberian shamans describe the world pillar as a conduit for traveling between realms, while Hindu texts speak of the Mount Meru, a spinning pillar that maintains universal balance. Even the Hopi emergence myth features a bamboo-like reed that allowed passage between underworlds. These recurring themes suggest the Djed wasn't just an Egyptian oddity, it was part of a shared archetype, a blueprint for something beyond our current understanding. The most startling theory comes from ancient astronaut proponents, who note the Djed's resemblance to modern antenna arrays or even dimensional gateways. The resurrection of Osiris, they argue, might metaphorically describe reactivating a dormant technology. Mainstream Egyptologists dismiss this as fantasy, but the pillar's precise proportions, its segments often matching Fibonacci ratios, hint at advanced geometric knowledge. Whether as spiritual metaphor or lost device, the Djed's message endures. Stability isn't passive. It's a force to be raised, aligned, and harnessed. Perhaps the answer lies in the pillar's simplest form. Just as a spine supports the body, the Djed reminds us that some structures don't just hold things up, They channel energy, connect worlds, and defy the limits of mortality. Its true power might not be in the stone, but in the question it forces us to ask: what unseen architectures keep our universe standing? 3 letters merge into one resonant hum, A. U. M, a syllable so potent it's whispered in Himalayan monasteries, chanted in Vedic rituals, even etched onto the walls of temples older than recorded history. This is Aum, the cosmic vibration that Hindus believe birthed reality from silence, Buddhists hear as the voice of enlightenment, and Jains revere as the sound of liberated souls. But this isn't just spiritual poetry. Modern physics reveals something startling. Sound waves can indeed influence matter, arranging particles into intricate patterns. Could Aum be more than a mantra? Could it be a forgotten technology, a sonic key to unlocking dimensions beyond our senses? Start with the syllable's anatomy. A emerges from the throat, representing creation, the Big Bang's first surge. U rolls across the tongue, symbolizing preservation, the universe's sustained hum. M closes the lips, embodying dissolution, the eventual return to stillness. Together, they mirror the cycle of existence itself. Ancient texts like the Mandakya Upanishad describe Aum as the sound form of Brahman, the ultimate reality. Chant it correctly, and legends say you sync your heartbeat with the pulse of the cosmos. But here's where science enters. Cymatics experiments show how specific frequencies, like those produced by chanting, cause sand or water to arrange into sacred geometric shapes. The patterns resemble mandalas or even the molecular structures of crystals. Did ancient mystics discover this first, using Aum as a tool to bend reality's fabric? Now consider the rituals. Tibetan monks chant Aum at frequencies between 110 and 140 Hz, the same range shown to stimulate theta brainwaves, states of deep meditation and creativity. Hindu priests recite it during fire ceremonies, where the mantra's vibrations are said to amplify the offering's spiritual potency. Even the act of writing Aum holds power. Its Sanskrit symbol, when analyzed as a waveform, mirrors the harmonic ratios found in quantum field theory. This isn't coincidence, it's precision. Some researchers propose that Aum's 3 sounds correspond to the 3 gunas, the fundamental forces of nature creation, balance, destruction described in Hindu cosmology. But the most electrifying theory comes from quantum physics. The vacuum energy of space isn't empty, it crackles with virtual particles popping in and out of existence. String theory suggests these vibrations might compose reality itself. In this light, Aum isn't just metaphor, it's a sonic blueprint, a way to tune consciousness to the universe's hidden frequencies. When you chant it, you're not just making noise, you're resonating with the hum at the heart of everything, a hum modern scientists are only beginning to measure. So next time you hear Aum reverberate through a temple or meditation hall, listen closer. That sound isn't ancient history, it's a live wire humming with the same power that spun galaxies into being, and the same mystery that still pulls us toward the stars. 2 pyramids locked in perfect embrace, one pointing skyward, the other plunging into the earth. This is the Merkaba, a shimmering geometric paradox whispered about in Kabbalistic texts and etched into the walls of Egyptian temples. Known as the light vehicle, this star tetrahedron isn't just a sacred shape. It's a cosmic blueprint said to activate a spinning field of energy around the human body, capable of transporting consciousness across dimensions. But here's where the mystery ignites. Modern descriptions of UFO propulsion systems and quantum physics echo eerily close to ancient instructions for riding the Merkaba. Could this symbol be more than meditation iconography? Could it be a forgotten science? Start with the name itself. Merkaba, breaks down into three ancient words: mer, light; ka, spirit; and ba, body, a trifecta suggesting the merging of physical and ethereal realms. In the Hebrew book of Ezekiel, the prophet describes a fiery chariot descending from the heavens, its wheels within wheels spinning with impossible precision. Kabbalists later linked this vision to the Merkaba, interpreting it as a divine vehicle for soul travel. Yet Egyptian tomb paintings tell a parallel story. Beneath the pyramid texts, the oldest known religious writings, lies a startling passage. The king becomes a star in the sky among the gods, his Merkaba shining brighter than the sun. These aren't vague metaphors, they're precise accounts, as if describing a technology beyond our grasp. The mechanics of the Merkaba reveal even deeper layers. Sacred geometry teaches that the star tetrahedron's 55-degree angles generate a torsion field when rotated, a spiraling energy current that, theoretically, could warp space-time. Modern physicists recognize torsion as a legitimate phenomenon, with Russian scientists like Nikolai Kozyrev documenting its effects on gravitational fields. Even NASA experiments with electromagnetic propulsion systems bear uncanny resemblance to Merkaba meditations, where practitioners visualize counter-rotating energy fields around their bodies. The overlap is too stark to dismiss as coincidence. Then there are the accounts from those who claim to have activated their Merkaba. Experienced meditators report levitation, out-of-body travel, or encounters with luminous beings, experiences mirroring modern-day UFO abductee testimonies. Ancient astronaut theorists point to the Vimanas of Hindu texts, flying machines said to operate on Mercury vortex engines, as potential Merkaba-like devices. The most chilling correlation, CERN particle collider, where scientists recreate conditions milliseconds after the Big Bang, is built atop a shrine to Shiva, the Hindu deity who dances within a circle of fire, his movements said to sustain the cosmos spin. Whether as spiritual metaphor or suppressed technology, the Merkaba refuses to be pinned down. Its spinning geometry mirrors the double helix of DNA, the orbits of binary star systems, even the toroidal flow of energy around black holes. Every line, every angle whispers the same truth, that light, motion, and consciousness might be facets of the same force, and that our ancestors may have known how to ride it. The real question isn't whether the Merkaba works, but what it reveals about the untapped potentials woven into the fabric of existence itself. As we turn to the next symbol, we'll encounter another key, one that doesn't spin in the heavens, but pulses deep within the earth. A single serpent wins its way up a weathered staff, its coils tight with purpose. This is the rod of Asclepius, the true emblem of healing that modern medicine nearly forgot. Unlike the flashy Caduceus with its twin snakes and wings, this ancient symbol carries a quiet authority, appearing in the hands of Greek physicians, Egyptian healers, and even Mesopotamian votive statues. But why does this solitary serpent hold such power, and how did its misunderstood twin become the face of hospitals worldwide? The story begins in the temples of Asclepius, the Greek god of medicine, where non-venomous snakes slithered freely as living symbols of renewal. Patients sleeping in these healing sanctuaries would awaken to find these sacred serpents brushing against their wounds, an early form of shock therapy that may have triggered the body's innate healing response. The staff itself, often made of rough-hewn wood, represented the tree of life, its knots and grains echoing the twists of human anatomy. Yet the most compelling theory ties the serpent to Kundalini energy, the primal force said to coil at the base of the spine in Eastern traditions. When awakened through meditation or healing, this energy spirals upward like a Asclepius serpent, activating higher states of consciousness and physical vitality. Modern science adds an eerie footnote. The serpent's helical path mirrors the double helix of DNA, as if ancient healers intuited the blueprint of life millennia before microscopes revealed it. Some researchers even suggest the rod functioned as an early electrotherapy device. Iron-rich staffs wrapped in copper serpents could generate weak electromagnetic fields when struck, stimulating cellular repair. Whether by accident or insight, Asclepius' symbol seems to encode truths we're still unraveling. Yet in a twist worthy of Greek tragedy, the Caduceus Hermes emblem of commerce and trickery usurped the rod's rightful place. The mix-up began in 1902 when the U.S. Army Medical Corps adopted the Caduceus, likely confusing its wings for divine protection. Pharmaceutical companies followed, plastering the twin serpent logo on pill bottles and ambulances. The irony stings. A symbol of profit and deception now represents healing, while the humble rod lingers in the shadows, known only to historians and purists. Perhaps the rod's quiet persistence holds a lesson. In an era of flashy medical marketing, its single serpent still winds through the logos of the WHO and the American Medical Association, a silent reminder that true healing requires patience, wisdom, and respect for the slow, coiled mysteries of the body itself. A simple fish outline scratched into the stone walls of Roman catacombs, drawn in the dust of marketplace stalls. This is the ichthys, the secret handshake of early Christians facing persecution. At first glance, it seems like a straightforward code. The Greek word for fish, ichthys, served as an acronym for Isus Christos Theouios Soter, Jesus Christ, Son of God, Savior. But dive beneath the surface, and you'll find this symbol swimming through much older currents. Long before Christians used it to mark safe houses, the fish was sacred to pagan goddesses like Atargotes, whose worshippers in Syria abstained from eating her scaly incarnations. In Hindu tradition, Matsya, the fish avatar, carried humanity through the cosmic flood, while Egyptian mythology depicts the Nile's fish swallowing the severed pieces of Osiris, aiding his resurrection. Why would a persecuted faith adopt a symbol already heavy with meaning for their oppressors? One theory suggests it was tactical, a way to blend in. Roman officials might dismiss a fish doodle as harmless pagan superstition, missing its subversive Christian meaning. But the overlap runs deeper than camouflage. Early Christian art often depicts the miracle of the loaves and fishes, linking the symbol to Christ's role as spiritual nourisher. The fish's ability to thrive in water, an element symbolizing chaos in Jewish tradition, made it a potent metaphor for believers navigating a hostile world. Yet the ichthys also appears in baptismal fonts and Eucharistic imagery, its scales shimmering with layers of meaning, renewal, abundance, and the hidden depths of faith. Now trace the symbol's evolution. In the catacombs of Priscilla, the ichthys swims alongside pagan motifs like the dove of Venus and the shepherd Orpheus, a visual dialogue between old and new beliefs. Some scholars argue this wasn't accidental appropriation but intentional synthesis, a way to bridge cultural divides. The fish's association with fertility in pagan rites mirrored Christian themes of rebirth, creating a symbolic lingua franca. Even the act of drawing the ichthys held power. Its continuous, looping shape could be etched quickly, a covert gesture of solidarity. The most tantalizing clue lies in numerology. The Greek letters of ichthys add up to 218, a number early Christians linked to the 153 large fish caught in the Gospel of John, a passage some interpret as representing the unification of Jews and Gentiles. Whether as mathematical cipher, spiritual metaphor, or political act, the ichthys refuses to be pinned down. It's a reminder that symbols, like faith, are never static. They evolve, adapt, and sometimes surface in the unlikeliest of depths. As we turn to the next symbol, we encounter another shape that defies simple explanation, one that doesn't swim through history but spirals. Standing sentinel on the windswept cliffs of Easter Island, the Moai statues turn their backs to the ocean, their hollow eyes fixed intently inland. These towering figures, some weighing over 80 tons, aren't just scattered randomly. They form a deliberate ring around the island's perimeter, their gazes trained not on the horizon, but on the villages behind them. This isn't mere artistic choice, it's a puzzle carved in volcanic rock. Why would an isolated culture expend unimaginable effort to quarry, transport, and erect nearly 900 of these colossi, only to position them as if standing guard over their people? The Moai's most striking feature might be their so-called hats, massive cylinders of red scoria stone balanced precariously atop their heads. Mainstream archaeology interprets these as ceremonial headdresses, but Rapa Nui oral tradition tells a different story. Elders speak of the statue's hair tied in top knots to signify mana or spiritual power. Even more intriguing are the petroglyphs found at the quarry, where these hats were mined spirals and wave patterns that some researchers argue resemble electromagnetic diagrams. Could the Moai's red crowns have functioned as resonators, channeling telluric energy or even ancestral communications? The statue's placement along ley lines adds weight to this theory, with several standing at intersections of underground water currents, known to amplify electromagnetic activity. Then there's the mystery of their movement. Local legends insist the Moai walked across the island, guided by priests who wielded unseen forces. Scientists have demonstrated how rocking the statues side to side could simulate a walking motion, but the sheer precision required to navigate miles of uneven terrain without toppling these multi-ton giants defies logic. A 2012 experiment showed that just 18 people, using ropes and coordinated movements, could walk a 10-foot replica, yet this doesn't account for the Moai's sheer scale or the island's lack of draft animals. The Rapa Nui's own creation myth offers a tantalizing clue. They believed their ancestors arrived from a sunken land called Hiva, bringing with them the knowledge to animate stone. But the most haunting question isn't how the Moai were moved, it's why. Recent LiDAR scans revealed hidden chambers beneath several statues, their contents still unexcavated. Some researchers propose the Moai acted as psychic batteries, their hollow bases serving as resonance chambers for chanting or drumming during rituals. Others point to their alignment with solstice sunrises, suggesting they functioned as a colossal calendar or early warning system for tsunamis. The truth may lie in the Rapa Nui's own words. They called the statues Eringa Ora, or living faces. These weren't just memorials to the dead. They were vessel stone witnesses meant to watch over the living long after their carvers had turned to dust. As dawn breaks over Easter Island, the Moai's shadows stretch inland like fingers, their silence louder than any warning. They stand not as relics of a forgotten past, but as reminders of a truth we've yet to fully grasp, that some stones were never meant to stay silent. Two swirling halves, one dark, one light, chase each other in perfect equilibrium, each containing a seed of its opposite at the core. This is the Taijatu, better known as the yin-yang symbol, a visual poem of balance carved into the heart of Taoist philosophy. But what's startling isn't just its elegance, it's the way this same pattern emerges in places Taoist monks never walked. Celtic shield bosses from 2,000 years ago bear the same swirling duality, their bronze surfaces divided into interlocking crescents. Navajo sand paintings weave mirrored figures of the hero twins, one dark and one light, locked in an eternal dance. Even the Zia sun symbol, sacred to Pueblo peoples, radiates fourfold symmetry from a central circle echoing the same universal rhythm. How could cultures separated by oceans and centuries arrive at the same stunning conclusion? That reality is woven from opposing yet inseparable forces. The Taoist interpretation is profound in its simplicity. Yin, the dark swirl, embodies receptivity, the moon, and the feminine principle. Yang, the light, represents action, the sun, and the masculine. Together, they form the Taiji, the supreme ultimate that births all existence. But here's where it gets fascinating. The tiny dots of opposite color within each half reveal a deeper truth. Nothing is purely yin or yang. Each contains the potential for transformation. This isn't just philosophy, it's observable science. Day becomes night, winter turns to summer, particles become waves. The Taiji captures the universe's fundamental flicker between states. Now consider the parallels. Celtic artisans crafted their dualistic spirals without knowledge of Taoism, yet their designs mirror the same cosmic intuition. The Navajo hero twins, one born of sunlight, the other of darkness, teach that neither can triumph completely without disrupting the world's harmony. These aren't coincidences, they're cultural expressions of a universal observation. Modern physics offers an eerie validation. Quantum entanglement demonstrates how particles separated by vast distances remain mysteriously linked, instantaneously mirroring each other's states, a dance as precise as the Taiji curves. The symbol's swirling boundary even resembles the event horizon of a black hole, where light and darkness reach an uneasy truce. The most compelling theory comes from depth psychology. Carl Jung saw the yin-yang as a representation of the conjunctio oppositorum, the union of opposites necessary for wholeness. Alchemists sought this balance in their quest for the philosopher's stone, just as Taoist sages pursued harmony through wu-wei, effortless action. Even the human brain reflects this duality, the logical left hemisphere and the intuitive right, constantly negotiating reality. The Taiji genius lies in its refusal to prioritize one half over the other. Its balance isn't static, it's dynamic, a perpetual motion machine of becoming. Perhaps that's why this symbol endures. In a world obsessed with binaries, good versus evil, us versus them, the Taiji whispers a subtler truth. Opposites don't cancel each other out, they define each other. The next symbol, however, doesn't swirl, it stands rigid, a geometric sentinel guarding secrets older than civilization itself. Take a strip of paper, give it a single twist, and tape the ends together. What you're holding isn't just a craft project. It's the Mobius strip, a shape that defies intuition with its one-sided surface, a loop where inside and outside blur into infinity. Found scribbled in the margins of medieval alchemy texts, etched into Celtic stonework, and even woven into the double helix of DNA, this twisted band seems to whisper secrets about the fabric of reality itself. How could something so simple, a strip with half a turn, hold such profound meaning across cultures and centuries? The Mobius strip's magic lies in its paradox. Run your finger along its surface and you'll traverse both sides without lifting your hand, a physical representation of unity in duality. Alchemists saw it as a metaphor for the Ouroboros, the serpent eating its tail, where beginnings and endings collapse into a single eternal moment. Modern mathematicians revere it as a non-orientable surface, a concept that shattered Euclidean geometry and paved the way for topology. But here's the startling part. Ancient cultures may have grasped its properties long before August Mobius discovered it in 1858. The Laozi manuscript, dating back to 400 BC, describes the Tao as a wheel without spokes, its motion endless and boundary-less, an uncanny echo of the Mobius loop. Now consider its appearances in nature. the structure of certain cosmic magnetic fields, like those around neutron stars, twist into Mobius-like configurations. Some proteins fold into Mobius strips for stability, their twisted shapes allowing them to resist enzymatic breakdown. Even the human genome contains topologically associating domains, loops of DNA that behave like molecular Mobius strips, regulating gene expression in ways we're only beginning to understand. This isn't coincidence, it's evidence that the strip's form isn't just mathematical elegance, it's woven into the universe's blueprint. Then there are the fringe theories, ones that push the strip into science fiction territory. Nikola Tesla allegedly experimented with Mobius coils to harness free energy, believing their infinite surface could trap and amplify electromagnetic waves. Conspiracy researchers point to declassified Cold War documents suggesting the strip's geometry was studied for time manipulation, its closed time-like curves theoretically allowing information to travel backward. Even sacred geometry enthusiasts argue that ancient megalithic sites, like the stone circles of Callanish, align in Mobius-like patterns to amplify Earth energies. Whether as spiritual symbol or speculative technology, the strip's allure persists because it challenges our deepest assumptions. That time flows in one direction, that space has fixed dimensions, that boundaries are real. Perhaps the most profound lesson of the Mobius strip isn't in its shape, but in what it reveals about perception. Just as the strip merges two sides into one, it invites us to see beyond binaries, life and death, past and future, self and other, as illusions of perspective. Every twist, every loop whispers the same truth. Infinity isn't a distant abstraction. It's here, in our hands, waiting to be traced. A single winding path coils inward like a serpent, leading only forward, never branching, never dead-ending. This is the Labyrinth, a puzzle without tricks, found etched into the floors of Gothic cathedrals, scratched onto stones in the Arizona desert, even woven into the myths of King Minos and the Minotaur. Unlike mazes which taunt with false turns and dead ends, the Labyrinth offers no choices. Its power lies in surrender, the act of following a path that seems to meander aimlessly, yet always, inevitably, arrives at the center. Consider the Labyrinth's most famous incarnation, the seven-circuit design of Crete's legendary Minotaur's lair. At first glance, it's a prison for a monster. But look deeper, the same pattern appears in Hopi petroglyphs, where it's called the Mother Earth symbol, representing the journey from birth to spiritual awakening. Medieval Christians walked cathedral labyrinths like the one at Chartres on their knees, tracing the path as a substitute for pilgrimages to Jerusalem. These weren't just artistic flourishes, they were ritual technologies designed to induce altered states through motion alone. The genius of the labyrinth is its duality. Physically, it's a constrained path, sometimes only a few hundred steps long. Psychologically, it's vast. The repetitive turns trigger a phenomenon called cognitive unloading, where the conscious mind quiets, allowing subconscious patterns to surface. Modern neuroscientists studying labyrinth walkers note increased theta brainwave activity, the same waves that crest during deep meditation or REM sleep. It's as if the labyrinth's twists act as a tuning fork for the brain, resonating with frequencies just beyond everyday awareness. But here's where the mystery tightens. Ancient labyrinths often align with subterranean energy lines. The Hopi snake dance, performed near labyrinth petroglyphs, coincides with seismic activity along the Colorado Plateau. Chartres Cathedral sits atop a network of underground rivers, their flow mirroring the labyrinth's curves. Some researchers propose these paths were earth acupuncture, their winding routes channeling telluric currents to amplify spiritual experiences. Others argue they're celestial maps, the seven circuits of Crete's labyrinth, matching the seven classical planets visible to the naked eye. Perhaps the most haunting interpretation comes from near-death experiencers, who describe their journeys as moving through a spiraling tunnel toward a radiant center. The labyrinth's unbroken path eerily mirrors these accounts, suggesting it might be a blueprint for the soul's voyage beyond the body. Whether as meditation tool, energy conductor, or metaphysical map, the labyrinth's lesson endures. Sometimes the only way out is through, and the deepest wisdom lies not in choosing the path, but in walking it. A 12-spoked wheel radiates from a hollow center, its arms jagged like bolts of frozen lightning. This is the Black Sun, a symbol so steeped in controversy that even its name sends shivers. While infamously embedded in the floor of the Wewelsburg Castle during the Nazi era, this design predates the Third Reich by centuries, its origins tangled in alchemical manuscripts and Germanic folklore. The Nazis didn't create it, they hijacked it, twisting an ancient emblem of cosmic cycles into a banner of hatred. But beneath its dark modern legacy lies a far older mystery. What did this spiraling void once represent? Long before it adorned SS officer rings, the Black Sun flickered in the margins of medieval alchemy texts. Some scholars link it to the Sol Niger, or Black Sun, a cryptic phase in the alchemical process where base matter dissolves into primordial chaos before rebirth. The Rosicrucians described it as the invisible sun, a hidden source of illumination accessible only through spiritual transformation. In Germanic tradition, it echoed the sun wheel, a symbol of cyclical time and the eternal return. These interpretations share a common thread. The Black Sun wasn't about destruction alone. It symbolized the necessary darkness before dawn, the unseeable forces that govern renewal. Yet the symbol's geometry hints at stranger possibilities. Its 12 spokes mirror the zodiac, suggesting celestial alignment, while its hollow center evokes descriptions of Vril, a mythical energy said to power ancient Atlantean technology. Occultists like Rudolf von Sebetendorf tied the Black Sun to Hyperborea, a lost Arctic civilization allegedly possessing advanced psychic abilities. Even mainstream astronomers note an eerie parallel. The symbol's radial arms resemble the accretion disks of black holes, those cosmic voids where light itself bends backward. Could the ancients have intuited celestial phenomena beyond their instruments? The most haunting theory connects the Black Sun to antediluvian cults. Artifacts from Göbekli Tepe, dated to 9600 BCE, feature similar spiral motifs, while Sumerian cylinder seals depict deities holding sun disks with darkened centers. These scattered fragments suggest a global undercurrent, a reverence for the sun's shadow side as a source of esoteric power. Modern fringe researchers argue that the Black Sun represents a second, hidden star in our solar system, a brown dwarf like the theorized nemesis, whose gravitational pull might trigger periodic cataclysms. Today, the symbol remains radioactive, its true meaning obscured by its Nazi appropriation. But its persistence in underground occult circles, from neo-pagan rituals to chaos magic, proves its allure can't be erased. Whether as alchemical metaphor, cosmic map, or remnant of a lost cosmology, the Black Sun challenges us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Some symbols don't just reflect light. They consume it, forcing us to navigate the darkness beneath. Imagine a pattern so perfect it could unfold the entire universe, a series of overlapping circles that lock together like the gears of creation itself. This is the flower of life, a geometric design etched into the stone of the Assyrian in Egypt, painted onto the walls of China's Forbidden City, even hidden in Leonardo da Vinci's notebooks. At first glance, it seems like simple sacred art, but zoom in, and you'll find something astonishing. Every circle intersects at precise 60-degree angles, forming a lattice of perfect symmetry, a blueprint that mirrors the structure of snowflakes, the orbits of planets, even the arrangement of atoms. What makes this symbol so extraordinary isn't just its beauty, but its mathematical inevitability. Draw one circle, then a second overlapping it by exactly half its diameter. This is the vesica piscis, the womb of geometry. Repeat this pattern outward, and the flower of life emerges, its petals unfolding into a grid of infinite possibilities. Ancient builders didn't just stumble upon this design. They replicated it with near-supernatural precision. In the Temple of Osiris at Abydos, the flower is carved into granite so hard that modern tools struggle to scratch it, yet its curves remain flawless after 5,000 years. How did they achieve such perfection without compasses or blueprints? Theories spiral as wildly as the pattern itself. Sacred geometry scholars argue the flower encodes the Platonic solids, the 5 shapes that form the building blocks of reality. Alchemists saw it as a map of the ether, the invisible energy that flows through all things. Even modern physicists note its resemblance to the quantum foam, the turbulent foundation of space-time. But here's where it gets eerie. When you overlay the flower of life onto a map of the world, its nodes align with ancient megalithic sites Stonehenge, the Great Pyramid Machu Picchu, as if these monuments were placed deliberately along an invisible energy grid. Perhaps the most compelling clue lies in its name. The flower of life isn't just poetic. Under a microscope, the early stages of cell division form nearly identical patterns, as if biology itself follows this geometric script. From the veins of leaves to the spiral arms of galaxies, the same shapes repeat, whispering a truth the ancients may have known intuitively, that creation speaks in geometry, and the flower is its alphabet. So was this symbol a tool, a talisman, or something far more profound? The answer might lie in the spaces between the circles, the silent intervals where all possibilities wait to bloom. A hand stretches outward, fingers spread wide, but at its center, where the palm should be, a single unblinking eye stares back. This is the Hamsa, one of humanity's most enduring protective symbols, cradled by Jewish mothers, suspended over Islamic doorways, and pressed into Hindu ritual objects. Its name means 5 in Arabic, a nod to the digits that frame it, yet its power transcends language. From the bustling souks of Marrakech to the quiet halls of Jerusalem's synagogues, the Hamsa hangs as a silent sentinel against misfortune. But what's truly remarkable isn't just its ubiquity, it's the way this symbol morphs to fit each culture that embraces it, while never losing its core promise, safety. In Jewish tradition, it's the hand of Miriam, sister of Moses, its eye reflecting God's watchful presence. Islamic cultures call it the hand of Fatima, honoring the Prophet Muhammad's daughter, its 5 fingers embodying the pillars of faith. Hindu and Buddhist traditions recognize it as the Abhaya Mudra, a gesture of fearlessness traced back to depictions of the Buddha himself. Even ancient Phoenicians carved similar hand motifs into amulets, linking it to the goddess Tanit, protector of Carthage. This isn't coincidence, it's evidence of a primal human instinct to seek shelter in the shape of an open hand, a universal gesture of both greeting and shielding. Now focus on that eye. Some scholars argue it represents the evil eye, not as a threat but as a mirror, deflecting malice back to its sender. Others see it as a third eye, a conduit for divine insight. The Zohar, a foundational Kabbalistic text, describes the Hamsa as a channel for Ayin Hara, the benevolent light that counters negativity. Modern psychologists note how eye symbols trigger our brain's threat detection systems, explaining why the Hamsa feels so viscerally protective. But the most compelling theory ties it to early goddess worship. Excavations in Çatalhöyük, a Neolithic site in Turkey, uncovered handprints with eye motifs dating back 8,000 years, suggesting the Hamsa's roots might stretch into prehistory, long before organized religion claimed it. Why does this symbol persist across faiths? Perhaps because it answers a fear deeper than doctrine, the vulnerability of being human. The hand is our first tool, our first weapon, our first comfort. To inscribe it with an eye is to assert that we're both seen and shielded. Whether as talisman or theological artifact, the Hamsa whispers the same promise: you are not alone. The next symbol, however, doesn't offer protection, it demands confrontation, its twisted form challenging us to face what lurks in the shadows. 5 points stretch outward like rays frozen mid-explosion. This is the pentagram, a symbol so potent its meaning flips like a coin depending on whose hand holds it. Inscribed on Babylonian cylinder seals over 4,000 years ago as a celestial map, branded onto medieval grimoires as a demonic trap, even stitched into the gloves of baseball pitchers for luck, this 5-pointed star refuses to be pinned to a single interpretation. Its power lies in its geometry, a single unbroken line crossing itself just enough to create perfect symmetry, yet twisted enough to suggest hidden dimensions. Start with its most ancient incarnation. The Babylonians saw the pentagram as a representation of the planet Venus, tracking its 8-year celestial dance that forms a near-perfect 5-petaled flower across the night sky. They called it the Star of Ishtar, linking it to their goddess of love and war, a duality that foreshadowed the symbol's split personality. Pythagoras later claimed it as the emblem of his secretive brotherhood, dazzled by how its lines divide into the golden ratio, the same proportion found in human DNA spirals and galaxy arms. To him, the pentagram was mathematical divinity made visible, proof that numbers ruled the cosmos. Yet by the Middle Ages, the symbol's reputation darkened. Medieval magicians inverted the pentagram, believing the single downward point could trap demons within its lines, a notion popularized by occultist Eliphas Levi, who described it as the goat's head of lust. This inversion birthed the modern association with Satanism, though ironically, early Christians had used the upright pentagram to represent Christ's 5 wounds. The symbol's chameleon nature reveals a deeper truth. Meaning isn't inherent in shapes, but in the fears and desires we project onto them. Modern archaeologists uncovered a startling twist. At the Neolithic site of Tel Es-Sorwan in Iraq, pentagrams appear alongside fertility symbols, suggesting early agricultural cults may have linked the star's 5 points to the 5 stages of crop cycles. Alchemists took this further, mapping each point to an element: earth, air, fire, water, and spirit, the 5th point symbolizing the elusive quintessence that transcended material reality. Even Leonardo da Vinci couldn't resist its pull, overlaying Vitruvian Man onto the pentagram to showcase how human proportions mirrored cosmic harmony. The pentagram's most haunting quality is its uncanny resonance with nature. Slice an apple crosswise and its seeds form a 5-pointed star. Observe a jellyfish from below and its radial symmetry echoes the same design. Quantum physicists note that certain quasi-crystals arrange atoms in pentagonal patterns that never quite repeat, bending the rules of classical geometry. Whether as sacred seal, mathematical marvel, or whispered ward against darkness, the pentagram endures because it speaks a primal language, one written in angles and intersections, waiting for us to decipher its next evolution. A single thread loops and twists without end, weaving a pattern so complex it seems to defy time itself. This is the endless knot, a symbol that dances across Tibetan prayer flags, winds through Celtic stone carvings, and adorns Chinese silk tapestries with equal grace. At first glance, it's a mesmerizing puzzle of interlaced lines, but look closer, and you'll discover a profound truth hidden in its folds. No matter how tangled the path appears, every strand is connected. The knot has no true beginning or end, mirroring the Buddhist concept of samsara, the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, where every action ripples outward, binding all existence in an invisible web of cause and effect. In Tibet, monks call it the palbu, a visual hymn to interdependence. They trace its loops during meditation, each curve a reminder that joy and suffering are woven from the same thread. Celtic artisans, unaware of Himalayan philosophy, crafted nearly identical knots, calling them the warbird's weave, symbolizing how fate binds warriors to their deeds. Even Chinese emperors embroidered the knot onto robes, believing its unbroken lines warded off misfortune by harmonizing cosmic forces. The universality of this design raises a haunting question. Did these cultures stumble upon the same symbol by chance, or were they intuiting a fundamental truth about reality itself? Modern physics offers an eerie parallel. String theory proposes that the universe is built from vibrating filaments of energy, tiny, interconnected loops eerily reminiscent of the endless knot's design. Quantum entanglement demonstrates how particles separated by vast distances remain mysteriously linked, as if tied by invisible strings. The knot's geometry even mirrors fractal patterns found in galactic clusters and neural networks, suggesting it might be more than metaphor. It could be a blueprint for how existence organizes itself. Yet the most compelling interpretation lies in the knot's refusal to privilege any single strand. Pull one loop and the entire structure tightens. This isn't just artistry, it's a radical statement about unity. In a world obsessed with boundaries between self and other, past and future, the endless knot whispers that separation is the illusion. Every twist, every crossover, is a silent testament to the truth we're still unraveling, that we're all part of the same intricate, unfathomable design. Scholars have wrestled for decades with the uncanny repetition of these symbols across time and space. How could identical designs appear in cultures separated by oceans and millennia? Four compelling theories attempt to untangle this mystery, each offering a radically different lens through which to view these enigmatic patterns. The first theory suggests the existence of a forgotten global civilization, perhaps Atlantis, Mu, or another advanced society lost to cataclysm. Proponents point to submerged ruins like Japan's Yonaguni Monument or India's Dwarka as possible remnants of this precursor culture. If such a society existed, its survivors might have scattered after its collapse, carrying sacred symbols to distant lands. This could explain why the lotus motif appears in both Egyptian temples and Mayan pyramids, or why pyramidal structures rise on every continent. Ancient texts like Plato's Critias describe a sophisticated empire sinking beneath the waves, while flood myths from Mesopotamia to the Amazon speak of survivors rebuilding with inherited knowledge. Could these symbols be fragments of that lost world's legacy? A second camp argues for independent invention, the idea that humanity naturally arrived at similar designs because of shared cognitive patterns or environmental constraints. Just as diverse cultures developed bows, wheels, and fermented drinks separately, they may have independently crafted spirals, crosses, and solar discs. Psychologists note that humans are hardwired to recognize certain shapes: the zigzag of lightning, the curve of a horizon, the symmetry of a face. These primal patterns, repeated in nature, might have organically surfaced in art and ritual. The spiral, for instance, mirrors hurricanes, galaxies, and the cochlea of the inner ear, a shape so fundamental that Neolithic artisans in Ireland and Aboriginal painters in Australia both gravitated toward it without contact. Then there's the more controversial extraterrestrial or divine intervention theory. Ancient astronaut researchers highlight carvings of winged discs or sky gods in multiple cultures, suggesting these symbols were taught by advanced visitors. The Dogon tribe of Mali, for instance, possessed precise astronomical knowledge of Sirius B, a star invisible to the naked eye centuries before telescopes confirmed its existence. Similarly, the sudden sophistication of Sumerian mathematics and writing has fueled speculation about outside influence. Alternatively, theological perspectives propose that these symbols were divinely revealed, a shared sacred language embedded in human consciousness by a higher power. The golden ratio, encoded in everything from the Parthenon to seashells, might reflect this universal design. The final and perhaps most enigmatic theory ties these symbols to the collective unconscious, a concept pioneered by Carl Jung. He believed certain archetypes are ingrained in the human psyche, bubbling up in dreams, myths, and art across cultures. The mandala, for example, appears spontaneously in the drawings of people who have never encountered Eastern spirituality. Modern neuroscience lends some credence to this idea. When shown geometric patterns, the brain's default mode network activates in ways that evoke awe or transcendence. Sacred geometry might resonate because it mirrors the neural architecture of perception itself. So which theory holds water? The answer likely lies in a fusion of diffusion and intuition. Some symbols spread through trade or migration, while others emerged from the depths of shared human experience. Yet the persistence of these designs, whispering to us from cave walls and cathedral stones, suggests something deeper. They're not just relics of the past, they're living puzzles, inviting us to question whether history is as linear or as solitary as we've been taught. As we turn to the final symbol, keep this in mind. Some patterns refuse to fade because they're woven into the very fabric of how we see, dream, and remember. These 42 symbols aren't just relics, they're whispers from civilizations long gone. A visual language etched into stone, woven into sacred texts, and hidden in plain sight. Each one carries layers of meaning, like a time capsule waiting to be cracked open. The spiral on a Neolithic tomb in Ireland mirrors the same shape painted in a Peruvian temple. The lotus blooming in Egyptian art rises again in Hindu mandalas, untouched by time or distance. These aren't coincidences, they're clues. What if these symbols are more than just art or ritual? Some researchers believe they're fragments of a lost global language, a way for ancient cultures to encode advanced knowledge about astronomy, energy, or even consciousness itself. The precision of their geometry, repeated across continents with mathematical accuracy, suggests something startling. Our ancestors might have understood the fabric of reality in ways we're only now rediscovering. Take the flower of life, for example. Its perfect overlapping circles appear in Egyptian temples and Chinese palaces, yet modern physicists recognize its patterns in quantum foam and cellular structures. Was this symbol a blueprint, a map, or a meditation on the unity of all things? Others argue these symbols tap into something deeper, the collective unconscious, a shared psychic imprint that transcends culture. Carl Jung called them archetypes, primal images hardwired into the human mind. The labyrinth, the tree of life, the Ouroboros, they emerge in dreams and myths worldwide, as if humanity has always been reaching for the same truths, even across oceans and eras. Then there's the most tantalizing possibility, that these symbols are remnants of an older, wiser civilization, one that mastered technologies or spiritual practices we've yet to comprehend. The winged discs carved into Mesopotamian temples, the serpentine Caduceus clutched by Sumerian gods, the Vajra's thunderbolt form, could these be metaphors, or could they be descriptions of something real, something tangible? Ancient texts speak of flying chariots and energy weapons, while modern scientists grapple with torsion fields and zero-point energy. The line between myth and history blurs when you look closely. But here's what's undeniable. These symbols endure because they speak to something universal. The yin-yang's dance of opposites, the phoenix's cycle of rebirth, the endless knots woven connections. They mirror the rhythms of nature, the pulse of the cosmos, the questions we still ask today. They remind us that humanity has always sought meaning, always tried to map the mysteries of existence, whether through sacred geometry or celestial alignments. So what do you think? Are these symbols sacred geometry, lost technology, or something even stranger? The conversation doesn't end here. Dive deeper with our videos on the secrets of sacred sites, the science behind ancient myths, and the unsolved codes still waiting to be cracked. The past isn't silent, it's shouting to us across the ages. All we have to do